Oh, Indy Pride, Italian Spartacus. Let's go. I'm so freaking excited, my dude.
I don't even know what's going on. Like, everyone keeps hitting me up like, yo. Do you see that thing? Like, what happened?
I don't know why people would be excited for this game, honestly.
As you and I were talking about earlier, I think the full transition to our channels into anime dating sims is the way to go.
Dick Girls is the only way to make content on YouTube now.
If I don't see raw hot dick girls in my inbox, that's the point of living.
Why even live? Why?
God, when you said that to me, I lost my shit. I couldn't stop laughing.
Dude, is the ODST soundtrack not the best goddamn thing you've ever heard in your freaking life?
Dude, that game itself is really damn good. It's so hard. It's such it's underrated as far as Halo goes.
It's a very different experience, for sure.
It's like, you realize very quickly that you are not a Spartan. You are no Master Chief.
Yeah, you die in like 2 needle shots.
Yeah, and they throw nothing but like the big dudes at you, the brutes at you. You're like, whoa, okay, great.
New Mombasa, baby!
Even the name, Orbital Drop Shock Trooper.
It's so badass. Like, I have to reference it in at least like every other Total War video. Like, dropping feet first into hell ODST style, baby!
Like, I mean, how do you not like salivate when you hear such a word? Like,
I am beautiful. Literally salivating as we speak. There's so much salivation going on. Welcome, my friends! Total War Warhammer 3 was announced today. What an auspicious day it has been. Honestly, legendary. Like, there are few moments in one's life where, you know, it's like is it even worth it? You know, is it even worth it? When Warhammer 3 trailer drops, it's worth it, bro. It's an exciting day for sure. We've got a lot to talk about, man. We've got a lot to talk about today. We've got a lot to talk about in the coming days. I think we're going to get started with the basics here, and that is that Cathay and Kislev are coming to Warhammer 3. Now, Kislev was one of those things where I think people were kind of expecting it at this point. When you're talking about Cathay, well, you know what? I'm going to share my screen here.
Peggy.
Let's see what people have to think about Cathay.
Oh man.
Let's see what people said about Cathay.
I didn't know this was a live action salt stream.
Cathay isn't coming, and it's time to accept it. LOL. Absolutely no chance. The demand for them is basically zero. And also, the last thing we need is more Oriental BS. Classy. Very nice. Very nice. What are some good ones here? There is no chance in Warhammer 3. That's an unrealistic expectation. You can't accept that. It's your problem. They pretty much said it's not happening, yet people still make these posts. Fuck Cathay. Wow, very strong words. Now, I'm not really in the habit of gloating, but sometimes I do.
Well, I mean,
we don't need to be
it's
sending
kind of like an unnecessary level of aggression towards something, right? Like, I mean, we already know, like they told us back in Warhammer 1, all the factions that had books are coming. But we got Vampire Coast, which had just its only little white dwarf thing. Now we're getting Kislev, which hasn't had a full-fledged anything in a long time aside from the allied contingent. Like, why not be excited about something that has only existed in like small blurbs on the side or little white dwarf entries here and there? Like, I don't understand the unnecessary hate for it.
So my perspective on it, and I get, like, if you want Ogre Kingdoms or Chaos Dwarfs instead of Cathay, I'm totally on board with you. I don't have a problem with that at all. But my perspective, my perspective on this thing is, we didn't know Cathay was coming, right? Like, realistically, it was an unrealistic proposition. If you mentioned Cathay 5 years ago, everyone and their mother and brother is gonna smack you in the face and say, "Wake the hell up! You're an idiot." There's no way that's happening. Now, once Vampire Coast happened and a few other things happened, and we saw all these interesting nods to lore, then it got a lot more interesting, and there was more of a chance, but it still wasn't a guarantee. It was far from it. It was never a guarantee. I don't begrudge anyone for thinking that Cathay wasn't going to come. The more militant comments, and of course not all these are militant.
That's the real thing.
Yeah, like those are the ones that are like a little bit bothersome. It's like, I think once Vampire Coast happened, you had to come at it from a little bit of a different perspective and say, okay, there's a decent chance. Maybe not even a decent chance. There is a chance. To completely discount it was silly. If you're Games Workshop, if you're Creative Assembly, you want to break into a new market, we know the Chinese market is huge. We know that there are potentially 1 billion people to sell the product to. Obviously, not realistic to sell that to the entire country. You got to go through the CCP, whatever. There's a part of the country that's going to be interested in Cathay. You don't have to be Chinese to be interested in Cathay, but certainly helps. I mean, like, if I was Russian, I would be super happy to see Kislev. I'm American, I'm still super happy to see Kislev, but I think you had to come at it from a different perspective at that point and say, like, maybe there's a shot. If we're getting weird-ass stuff like Fimir and War Mammoths and Norska and Vampire Coast, an entire fleshed-out faction that way, maybe there is a shot. And in fact, Games Workshop released an article today that kind of broke it down. I mean, kind of their perspective on the trailer. They kind of reacted to everything, which was honestly really boring. I watched a bald dude react to it, and he was like, cool.
Don't talk about me. You watch me react to it. Cool, man.
Yeah, it's like, if you're gonna do a react video, I'd probably get like hype about it or something. Like, you work for Games Workshop, maybe you should be excited about this. But this article talked about Kislev and it talked about Cathay. Now, there isn't a whole lot of information here. Eagle-eyed viewers among you may have spotted the name of Grand Cathay at the end of the trailer. Now the largest empire in the Warhammer world will finally be getting its time in the sun. Dragon Empire of Cathay, long mentioned in the background of old world history, and that is an important clarification. There is not a lot of lore here. The only stuff we really ever got for Cathay was in Tamarkan Throne of Chaos, and it was not a particularly in-depth look at them. There were some things mentioned, like dragon-blooded Shugengan wizards, the Dragon Emperor
Jade
himself.
Empire, Jade Vampires.
Yeah, Jade Vampires is one. And there are rumors that Harakti and a few of the original Lamians transitioned into that new line of vampiric corruption and spread it throughout all of Cathay. Jade-blooded would be super cool. They're literally pale-ass vampires with green blood, which is awesome. Muramasa, all the naysayers who said Cathay won't be added in the game here. Biggest laugh to them. I was right for years. SMH. Yeah, so obviously, guys, don't be sending hate to these people. Like, I don't have a problem with any of them. I had a problem with some of their comments, and believe me, I was making mental notes that entire time. Whenever I had a discussion with someone, they're like, "You're an idiot. There's no way it's coming." Like, I just said, "Oh, well, all right. I remember this. I probably have too good a memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. You and I have talked about it before. Like, there could be 1,500 like super nice comments that are like, "Yo, this is a dope video, blah blah blah." And then the one person who says something shitty like puts me in a bad mood.
Yeah, like a guy could write like a 3-paragraph praise comment, and then the like illiterate like 4-word like hate comment. I'm like, fuck that guy, man. Like he came at me hard.
It'll ruin my day. Yeah, that's kind of human nature. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't like that. And obviously, if you say something nice to me on YouTube, I'm gonna be like, yay, happy, thank you very much. But it is a situation where like the one person who says some like really just overly vitriolic and aggressive will get me like, whoa, like my day's ruined now. Thank you, Muramasa, for the 20. Very much appreciated, man.
Who am I, gambling?
Who you are our king, my liege. You are our dragon emperor.
Fall into a fuck you every time you get those.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna stop showing this. I love all of you guys. No hate to any of you. Obviously don't go make fun of them. We're making fun of them, but it's all in good fun. It's not like I hate you forever because you thought Cathay wasn't gonna come. One thing I do want to do, we're gonna actually turn this music. Oh, it's so good. God, that ODST air traffic control, so freaking cool. I want to learn how to play guitar just to play this song, man.
I have the one where it's like it's called like ODST Rain or something like that, and it's just like one specific song, like that really sad, like kind of mellow song from ODST, where like you're going in between like locations.
It has like Halo in general has an amazing OST in ODST, but in Halo 3 and all the others as well. Yeah, no, it's always been like a super atmospheric OST, but ODST has a different take on it that is really, I think, special. We got DRL Sword, €5 or pound. Again, I'm an idiot. I never know the difference, so apologies. New PC Games End article. Game free map twice the size of Vortex. We shall see. That sounds very interesting because the Vortex map for Warhammer 2 is already pretty huge. Thank you very much for the donation. And Jimmy with the 5. How could one not be hyped about the Monkey King? I don't see how it would be possible. The interesting thing, guys, about China, and I don't know if this still holds true, but I'm pretty sure it does. Let me tell you about China. I will tell you.
Let me tell you about China here.
I'm an expert, trust me. No, so I have played a lot of Dota 2 in my life. I have almost 4,000 hours. To be fair, I started playing that in college, so I've been playing it for a really long time. I've taken like a year break. I haven't played in a while, but I have played a lot of Dota 2. Like 4,000 hours is a long time. China had an interesting situation with that, where they had a skeleton warrior in it, a hero named Skeleton King, that they literally renamed to Wraith King because there are skeletons in the game. Apparently, I think it's something about to do, like, it's disrespectful to raise up your ancestors' bones or something like that, to respect the dead. I think that's what it has to do with. I could be entirely incorrect. Please correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I know that there's an issue with portraying bones and skeletons in Chinese culture. So they had to change, because China is a huge market for Dota 2. They had to change Skeleton King to Wraith King. And I'm going to be curious to see what happens with Cathay. Obviously, they're going to be trying to sell themselves to the Chinese market. But what happens when you're in a situation where Nagash comes? And, well, certainly Vampire counts. Vampire Coast, those factions are going to be in the game. Is that a problem? Are they going to have to change or completely cut out those factions in Warhammer 3? Like, I don't know how they're going to approach that. But I'm sure Creative Assembly has done their due diligence and said, like, let's figure out how to make this actually work. But, like, literally, the CCP is the beginning and end of all business in China. And if they say, yo, you can't put Skelly Boys in our game, like, screw it, you're not doing it. So they're either cutting it out or they're not going to be able to sell the game at all. Which, that's all super, super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, like, Games Workshop is already trying to make that big push, like you were talking about earlier. Like that's why they have the whole like Space Marine Heroes line, which is picked up really well in China. So it's like this makes a lot of sense for them to want to roll this out, flesh out a portion of lore that has got no pre-existing anything, right? And you can get away with a lot doing that, right? Like you have the existing kind of art team, the existing like model basis of course there's no models for these things, but and the existing lore writers to really create a really well fleshed out, not over the top tropey style a faction like you do for say Araby, right? Araby is like the main character, the Jafar is the
Sultan Jafar.
Yeah, exactly. Is like the main guy in the Crusades, and it's like, damn, like it's back. That was back when, of course, like, okay, how do we make a fantasy world out of European history, basically? And now it's like, okay, we can just get as fantastical as we want. We don't care. That's why you've got like these badass Ice Guard for the for Kislev. So I can only imagine what they've done or what they're rolling out for Cathay. Like, and that's probably the most exciting thing about this, right? Like when you take a look at, you remember Warhammer 2, where it was like every month we got a different race cinematic trailer with the roster reveal, and then it was just all a bunch of stuff about the mechanics for that that specific race, and talking more and more about it. Like that's what it's going to be until whenever we get a release date. And we've got, if we think about it, so we've got in total 6 factions. So if they did a month by month thing, that would be 6 months of just like, hey, here's a news drop this month. It's going to be
the marketing
this month.
The marketing spiel for this, it's something that makes Warhammer so unique. And I was talking about it in the Discord earlier. You can't do this stuff for Battlefield or Call of Duty.
Right.
You can't do this kind of sustained marketing push where you're talking about, oh, the new units, the new lords, the new reveals. Like, you can do some of that, obviously. There's a lot to talk about when you talk about Warhammer, or not, World War II, or a different setting, wherever Battlefield is set. All the guns, sure, there's plenty to talk about, but it's not like this, where you can delve into entire faction, all their lore, their entire army book, their entire roster, everything. Like, it's super hype, and it's really awesome as a content creator, because we get a lot of shit to talk about, and it's super freaking hype, my dude. Now, there are a lot of donations. If I miss yours, apologies. I will get to all of them at the end, but obviously I'll try to catch as many as I can while we're talking without trying to disrupt the flow of this too much. Lord Zoltron. Honestly, so excited for Cathay and to explore what is basically an entire new corner of the Warhammer world. Right there with ya, my dude. Yeah, so I think what we're gonna do here, we'll kind of go through the trailer. We'll break it down a little bit there, but at some point today, and if you guys have any questions, just shoot them right now, but I think I'll probably ask for a Q&A section as well. Like, literally, if you have any thought or question that pops in your head, just shoot it. I will answer it, and we'll talk about it. Now, I am going to be curious to see how my GERD or Acid Reflex holds up today. It seems to be doing well. I have found, Italian, 2 important things about my Acid Reflex, and I know a lot of you guys have heard of all the issues that I've been dealing with that, the fact that I've been gagging. That's why I haven't been live streaming much. I was trying to get back into the swing of things in early November, and then all of a sudden this all hit, and it's really kind of messed with my work schedule in general. It's kind of made me a little bit more lethargic. It's not fun, dude. Like, acid reflux that is habitual, that is persistent, it really, really blows. But not sponsored, hashtag not sponsored, Health Aid Kombucha, and it's actually not sponsored, Health Aid Kombucha tastes very good, very sweet, very boobly, and it makes me burp, which for some reason really helps with my acid reflux temporarily to like kind of suppress the symptoms, which has been dope. So I've got that right here. That should help me so I'm not gagging. The other thing I figured out is if I'm drinking whole milk or any kind of like I think I might be dairy in general. I think I might be starting to get a little bit lactose intolerant. I had whole milk with whole grain cereal 2 nights ago. That's when my gagging came back. Like, I literally went 3 weeks without any of it whatsoever, and then it just came back with a vengeance. Sucks, complete ass. And then I had New England clam chowder, which is cream based, last night, and that ruined me. So trying to do the video today for the Warhammer 3 reveal, which is going super great, by the way. Thank you so much for the support on that, all of you. It's at like 120,000 views in 7 hours. Like, it is kicking ass and taking names and chewing bubblegum. Like, I'm so hyped, man. It's great. You guys have been awesome. And thank you all so much for the donations and stuff too. But yeah, it's been crazy. This whole situation with my health and everything has been crazy. Hopefully we'll be able to get it sorted out. I know a lot of you guys heard that I got the $500 fucking bill for a little 10-minute video call. Insane. Like, I'm not gonna get, there's nothing political here, but my lord, health insurance in this country is that's a bit of a joke. Anyway, I'm not salty about it at all. Let's do something here. Okay, so
Shit, I would be.
yeah, let's just, okay, how about we watch the trailer and I'll kind of make like a couple passing notes, and then we'll do like a legit run through the entire thing and like break down clip by clip, section by section. I think that'll be fun. And
You know, it kind of sucks that I didn't record you and I watching it together. Like,
a
I watched it
live
for the
reaction
first
would have
time.
been really fun. Yeah.
Because like as soon as those ice guard came on, like my like moan, I was like, huh,
Oh, Daddy.
oh, Henry.
Oh, Long Johnson. Oh, Don Piano. Yeah, it's I don't think I squealed like a girl when I watched it the first time, but
I did.
It was probably pretty close. Let's just watch it right now, guys. Let's just watch the trailer. We'll mostly be quiet, but there will probably be like some running around and like dry humping the air. Yeah, like the critical reaction gif. Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for the whole time. Oh my god. That's pretty much what's gonna happen here. So let's just do this. And let me know if the audio and everything's good.
Death is like the winter chill. No door can keep it from us. In summer yet may bloom.
Suspense. I can't hear the audio.
You can't hear it?
I guess it's good. Oh, I muted your stream. That's why.
Well, that would probably be why then.
There
Maybe.
is so much to tell you
Touche.
that I have run out of time. The sacrifice I made was not enough. The dark gods still feed on our transgressions.
Nurgle!
I just love how blinged out she is. Like all the jewelry and all like the accents that are super glowy and blue are so sick.
She's hot.
Obsession.
Dick girls.
Rage. You must face these demons.
I feel when you will never have an Ice Queen waifu at your side.
First girlfriend was an ice cream suck.
Bear calf! Free!
God, dude, like,
And then the winged hussars arrived, charging down the mountainside. Chaos, are you ready to die?
it's just so beautiful. I don't like how they look like Diablo.
Try, help! Try help!
The music where it just gets like, oh man, just starts shredding, right?
Dude, why don't I have a video camera? I'm literally twerking right now. Changer of Ways, I bet that the survey Games Workshop, oh, it's hard to read that fast enough. Give me 1 second.
Here, I'll read it to you. Did a year ago is the reason why we have Cathay. I never played tabletop, but I did the entire survey just to say that I would like to see more human factions. Here's hoping for Araby.
I think we're all, oh, we're not all hoping for Araby, because obviously if there are that many people that hate Cathay, there are probably plenty of people who hate Araby too, but yes, I think the vast majority of us would like to see Araby soon as well. Thank you very much for the donation, man. Much appreciated. Yeah, so that's the trailer. Pretty freaking cool. Now, I know that Warhammer 3 trailer is fresh in our minds. I know that we're super excited about it right now, and whatever you saw last is the thing you're gonna be most excited for. But if you had to, like, rank games 1, 2, and 3 cinematic trailers in a row, what order would you put them in?
Let's do this. Because
No,
there's only like
no, we won't. It's a bad idea. I won't do it.
I can't believe you're like this right now. You always do this. You never look at me during.
You always do this.
Like, since there's only like 2 more trailers to add into this list, let's talk about all of the Warhammer Fantasy trailers, which includes then Mark
DLC.
of Chaos and no, I'm just saying like
games.
Mark of Chaos and then Age of Reckoning. Like, those are the only 2 other ones worthwhile to mention
Sure.
that are like full CG and cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into Shadow of the Horned Rat.
Yeah.
This honestly, like, for me, it ranks as the first, with 2 being second, Mark of Chaos being 3, and
sorry,
I think
say your list, your order again.
Warhammer 3 is number 1.
Yeah,
for sure. Warhammer 2 is number 2, and I think Mark of Chaos, in my mind, places above even Warhammer 1, because Warhammer 1 I feel is really cool and it's really good, but I think it was really cool and really good because it was the first time we saw a Total War and Warhammer put together. So it has like the implication is more hype than the actual trailer itself.
See, I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree with you here. I think you're
contrarian
explicitly wrong. I think Warhammer 1's cinematic trailer is the best one we've seen in the trilogy and is one of the best trailers I've ever seen in any game, period. It had a really cohesive narrative. It had a perfect representation of what Chaos does, how it marks us all. And I think the nod to Agrabah, it basically touched every note in that it nodded to kind of obscure lore. Like, if you've never heard of Warhammer Fantasy, or even if you have, there's a very good chance you don't know shit about Egra von Horseman. Like, that's not like a core tenet, core pillar of Warhammer Fantasy lore. The nod to that, the quick montage of every faction in the game, I think that did a better job of introducing you to the setting and the content that will be in the game than this one did. Now, in terms of pure hype and like action, this one's definitely better. I mean, like the battle itself, when you see the warriors of Khorne, the Skull Crushers, come out and the Juggernauts are rearing up to run over people and the molten lava is pouring out of their eyes, all those images are incredible. But I think that the Warhammer 1 cinematic trailer hit everything. It had incredible voice acting, not that this one didn't. Tsar Boris in this is super, super damn good.
Right.
But the Warhammer 1 cinematic trailer, Advisor, Egra von Horseman, whatever you want to call the guy who's narrating it, just incredible work. Like, I still think that Warhammer 1 is the best. I think Warhammer 2's is last. It's a great trailer, but it doesn't have the narrative aspect of it. It kind of just teased the free-for-all and showed off some pretty cool images, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I have to go.
The high elves, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, high elves finally.
Yeah, I think I have to go 1, 3, 2 on that. I think that's probably the best way I can describe the trailers in a row. We have a donation here from Raw Cauliflower. When Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 multiplayer crossplay with Warhammer 3 is available, you should do a Scarbrand Demons versus Volkmar the Grim Empire showcase with Scarbrand. He hates the bald and the balding almost as much. Apparently, Scarbrand hates Italian Spartacus. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how fucking dare you?
I feel like that's some shade being thrown your way, but I don't know.
Story of my life.
I don't really.
People have an unnecessary hate towards bald people. We're reproducing at an alarming rate. People are losing hair all over the place.
Dude, that does scare me, because like, you can rock bald. I don't think I could rock bald. I have a huge divot in the middle of my head that was probably from like being dropped on my cranium as a child, and I think that would probably be a really bad look for me if I had to go like legit bald. When I have buzz cut and stuff, look fine. When I have longer hair, maybe not so much. Like my hair grows weird on my neck. I know a lot of people you probably deal with the same issue, and in quarantine, like I look like a hobo right now. Nightcrow.
I don't know, dude. That beard looks good. That's a solid beard on you.
The beard right now is solid. I'm quite happy with how that's grown out. But the actual like hair and stuff, like I like my hair shorter, and I haven't had a haircut in months. Nightcrow, so hyped, but I gotta agree. The nod to my boy Egrim is too great. Egrim better be a legendary lord next to a changer of ways. Praise Tzeentch. Okay, well, I think that's a good segue here. We'll play the trailer just for funsies. But while we do that, we can talk about who we think the legendary lords
Peggy 60
will be. Shut up, Peggy. Nobody care about you, girl.
Ain't no time for
ain't no love out here for you, Gecko. Get about a knob to me. All right. Let's play this. Okay, so legendary lords. There are 9 legendary lords across 6 factions. We know Tzeentch, Slaanesh, Nurgle, Khorne, Cathay, Kislev. Those are the 6 playable factions on launch. We know there will be a pre-order bonus. We'll discuss pre-order in a second here. But who do we think?
Do you think that 9 pre-order, those 9 legendary lords includes that early adopter bonus? I don't think so.
No. I think it's actually fairly unequivocal the way they phrased it that it does not include that. So I think the prevailing opinion right now, and chat, if you guys want to share your opinions here as well, I think prevailing opinion right now is that Kislev starts with 2, Cathay starts with 2. There's 1 for each of the Dark Gods, and then there's Be'lakor as the 9th.
I can get behind that.
I think that's the most logical one I've seen so far. That doesn't mean that's what they're gonna do, but it makes sense to me.
Now, who do you think? I mean, because I think that's one people want to ask the most. Is who do you think for Cathay? Because I have in my brain Zhen Tang and Dian Qing.
What the F are those?
Dian, I can't pronounce it properly. Qing is the Chaos Cultist. And Zhen Tang is the Dragon Emperor.
Okay, they have actual names?
Yep.
What up, play?
We're going to get sushi.
I am working at the moment.
You could feed her around 7 if we're not back.
I shall do so. Enjoy sushi. What?
She's gonna tell you to stop chewing gum. Yeah, everyone just nailed it. Dian Qing is the Monkey King.
Okay.
I
didn't
servant of the Monkey King.
I didn't know they had legit names. Like I honestly didn't know.
Some of them do.
Lola, drop a deucer outside, please. Okay, let's. What? How about we just play some Total War Warhammer music for now? Total War Warhammer OST. Yeah. So yeah, I think Monkey King and the Dragon Emperor are the 2 logical Cathay legendary lords. I think that is probably the way to go. If you had to go for the Demons of Chaos lords or Warriors of Chaos, because they are Monogods. One thing that I would love to see actually is maybe CA goes maybe 2 Warriors of Chaos lords to lead 2 of the factions to start, and then demons for the other 2. That would be cool. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a better choice than going with like 4 greater demons, but I think that would be kind of hype actually if they decided to go something like tackle it in that way. But my opinion in the video that I made today was that it will be Kugath Plaguefather as for Nurgle. He's a really cool lord, by the way. I don't want to go through my own files here because I might accidentally like show porn or something. That'd be bad.
I just have my porn folder just says, "Oh no, not porn."
By the way, guys, I'm gonna be opening up membership on my channel soon, so these are gonna be the emojis that you will get to unlock in the membership vault. And they're pretty dope. We got a Khorne Zerker, we got a Zangor, we got Thankwa, we got Sigmar, Nurglings, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, Kugath Plaguefather for Nurgle, Nakari, the Keeper of Secrets for Slaanesh, Scarbrand the Exiled One for Khorne, and Kairos Fateweaver, the double-headed Lord of Change for Tzeentch, I think would be logical. Dude, if they do Sartorial, I'm gonna poop my pants and not in a good way. I'm gonna fling it at the wall and spread it everywhere. Be very upsetting.
Do you see this, CA? Do you see what you've made me do to my own home? The security deposit's gone. There's poop all over the place. And I think someone in chat actually brought this up, and it's a good point to pivot on, since we're talking about the Chaos Demons. They've said that, hey, you know, there's not going to be any end times. There's not going to be Age of Sigmar. But with the with this teaser, we've seen that is the greater demon of Slaanesh from the Hedonites of Slaanesh, the new Age of Sigmar demons. And we see that Bloodthirster is the new Bloodthirster from Age of Sigmar. And I think that that's a really good stance to take, is to bring in, hey, here's all these updated, new, fresh, beautiful art models from Age of Sigmar. We'll pepper them into the Chaos Demons. And I think that that's an awesome thing. I'd rather have these new and badass looking demons than some of the really haggard, terrible ones from 4th and 6th edition that just never got their facelift come end times.
I 100% agree, and I think that talking about end time stuff is, I mean, there's this line here, and I think we can break this down right now. I'm literally gonna make a whole video about this line because it's super,
me, you, and me both.
it's super worth discussing. By the way, we're on my channel right now. This is Italian Spartacus.
We're on my channel right now.
If you've not heard of him, he's kind of a big deal. People know him. His apartment smells of rich mahogany, and he has many leather-bound books. So, go subscribe to the dude if you have not already. So there's this line here in the FAQ. Is Total War Warhammer going to be set during the end times and feature stuff from Age of Sigmar? No, with Total War Warhammer and Total War Warhammer 2, Warhammer 3, like those games, Warhammer 3 is set around the reign of Karl Franz in 2502. Our primary source is Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition, although we have and will continue to use older editions for inspiration where appropriate. I actually hate this line. I hate it. I despise it. I think it is stupid as hell. It makes no sense to me to say something like this because all it does is pigeonhole you as a developer and put you in a situation where if you have to walk it back, or people interpret it like you're doing end time stuff, which by the way, they literally already are, as you just said. They are literally doing Demons of Chaos, Greater Demons of Chaos, that have Age of Sigmar / late 8th edition end times models. Very much so not 5th edition, 4th edition, anything earlier. It's a weird thing to pigeonhole yourself into, especially when you get into characters like Nagash, which are very likely to come in Warhammer 3. Why would you say, no, this is not end times? You know how grognardy you nerds in chat get. You know how you freaks of nature will take any line that Creative Assembly says, exactly like what happened with Araby. People saw the Araby line and said, there's no freaking way Cathay could come, bro. Look what CA said. They take their words as gospel, even though a core tenet of business is being able to adapt to a market and change your viewpoint based on the winds of change, on the winds of Tzeentch. It makes no sense to pigeonhole yourself and say, no end time stuff, this isn't end times, because guaranteed a year from now, 6 months from now, whenever Nagash comes, whenever Legions of Nagash comes, whenever the end times content, whenever Thankwall on Bone Ripper with the new mount come, no guarantee that happens, but seems pretty goddamn likely because it's way cooler than his older stuff.
Well, I mean,
and if it's more aesthetic, why would you say it? It doesn't make sense to me.
I agree too. Like, even if let's say they didn't want to do an actual end times DLC, like let's say, okay, hey guys, we're going to be, what's it called? Twilighting or end of lifing, whatever the hell, Total War Warhammer 3. And we're going to release one last DLC. It's called the End Times. We're going to bring Thankwall and Nagash in. Hopefully they would come in before, but Thankwall and Nagash in, and then it's going to have some end times units. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that, but even if they decided not to do an actual DLC and then just sunsetting, thank you very much. If they just said like, hey, we'll do a DLC for Nagash and a DLC for Thankwall, respectively, whenever they do them, and they just decided to do basically what they've got for Total War Troy, where at the end of the game, or like the quote unquote end game, the game goes like, well, these factions are left, they're gonna like coalesce and attack you harder. Like, that would be, even if they called that the end times portion of your game, that'd be easy. Like, they already kind of had that existing framework in Troy, which is the Rome 2, modified Rome 2 engine, which is just what Warhammer 1, 2, and 3 are. So I think that would be at least a passable way to give us not an actual true end times, but something that kind of reminisces on it. Like, oh, okay, these factions combine and create the Undead Legion, stuff like that. Like, I'm cool with that. That doesn't need to be like a whole big shebang where it is jumping heavy into the end times narrative. At least they give that kind of conclusion, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it, is that when people say they want end times content, I think 99% of us all agree that a lot of the narrative, the story arcs of end times was stupid as hell and rushed. Like, the character motivations went to shit. They didn't make any sense. A lot of characters did stuff.
Retcon themselves.
Yeah, they retconned themselves like crazy. They made a lot of older lore seem obsolete that didn't need to happen. And I think we all agree on that. When people say they want end times, they're not saying they want all of the idiotic character motivations to appear in game. They're not saying they want the writers to forget about Skorsnik. They're saying they want the they're saying they want the general layout of what was going on during the end times, in that the dark gods are coming to the south, the Glottkin invasion is moving through Marienburg and threatening Altdorf. They want a situation where Nagash has ascended, is moving out of Cripple Peak and moving northwards towards Sylvania. They want a situation where he has been resurrected, Cetra is fighting Kolek, blah, 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 blah. There are a lot of cool elements of the end times that would perfectly fit in video game form, whether it be at the end of the trilogy or 6 months after launch, what have you. End times isn't inherently bad. There are lots of elements of it that are stupid that can easily be ignored in video game form. The entire point of a Total War campaign is that you make your own narrative. You drive your own story. It does not matter that Malekith was the Eternity King in the end times and like is rubbing his nipples while Alathanar like tweaks it from behind and says like, if you betray us, we'll kill you. I'm gonna put a Nagarythe arrow in your side and you'll die, I promise. But you know, I'm cool.
It disappears.
Yeah, but I'm cool with you for some reason, even though we've like been flaying each other alive for the last 8,000 years. No biggie. I mean, I'm cool with you now, bro. We cool, dog. Like, no one's saying they want that part of it. They're saying they want the legendary lords in their ascendant states. They want the new models, they want the new units, they want the Glottkin, they want future Blight Kings, they want Wrathmongers, they want all this stuff. And guess what? All those things, for the most part, barring maybe a few examples, they fit in Warhammer Fantasy. They make perfect sense in a game that will be focusing on Monogods.
Yeah, I mean, and then I took that personally. Like, I mean, it really...
You like that meme way too much.
Dude, I do, because you brought it to light for me when I was watching that documentary, and it's just like, yeah, because the second we got off from playing Hunt, I watched that documentary. That next episode, he goes, yeah, well, then I took it personally. I just couldn't stop laughing.
So sorry, continue your thought 1 second. Yeah, I don't want to be reading out every single donation as we're talking, just because it's going to interrupt the flow of our conversation. So what I'm going to do, if I did miss your donation, believe me, I very much appreciate any and all of that. You guys are being absolutely incredible right now. We'll make sure we get to all the super chats at the end of the stream. If I miss any during it, when I can, I will read it out, but I won't be able to do them all during live because there are a lot coming in, and obviously I won't be able to do anything else but read donations, and that will be boring. So again, thank you very much for your guys' amazing support for this. I mean, it's been an awesome day. Like, we are all very hyped right now. I'm excited as hell. And thank you for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Italian, continue your thought.
I think when people think end times, they think the book, the Archon book, or Archaon book, which is just god awful, right? That's as soon as it hits. I think as soon as it hits Kane, it starts to go downhill. And I think
End Times Kane is like universally like the most loathed of the End Times books.
100%. Like Glottkin still holds up. Glottkin's number 2, I think. I can't remember which one was 2.
Yeah, Fall of Altdorf is the second book, and that is awesome. By the way, Heffingen, the Battle of Heffingen, is going to be one of the things, like, I don't know if it's going to happen. You guys know that I'm good friends with Oakley. We haven't talked as much recently, but he is incredibly good at doing these, like, narrative overviews of battles, kind of like the Baz battle thing, but he'll, like, break it down. One thing I really want to do for Warhammer 3, now that we have all the factions and all the races and all the units and stuff, Heffingen is a damn cool battle. Vampire Counts, Vlad von Karstein comes in. The Blood Knights under Wallach Harkin ride in from the north. They have given themselves over to Khorne. There's a crazy duel between Karl Franz on Deathclaw versus Wallach Harkin on a zombie dragon. The forces of Nurgle come in. There's this disgusting miasma, this rain that's called this disease rain that's flowing throughout the countryside, and there's this huge battle. Kurt Helborg duels a greater demon of Nurgle. There's just so much cool stuff there. I would love to do basically a historical battle where you've got those cool like overview shots of like how the armies and the regiments were moving during the course of the battle, and then intersplice that with like cinematic shots of Great Unclean Ones and all that stuff. Put that all in. If that was done well, which is no guarantee because I suck, but if it actually ended up working out well, That would be such a freaking cool video. I want to do that kind of stuff for Warhammer 3. And it's harder to do that right now simply because we don't have all the assets in game and a lot of those incredible set piece battles. And that's one of the things that End Times did really well. The Fall of Altdorf, the Siege of Altdorf is a perfect example of that. There's some incredible moments in those series that you can't really do until you get Daemons of Chaos. Give me 1 second. Speak whatever you're going to talk about. I'm going to get the dog inside.
Speak whatever you're going to talk about. No, and I totally agree. Like, I think we all can agree, and it looks like this is the consensus through chat, is that Nagash was a solid book. All of us that jumped on Nagash were super excited because we didn't by any stretch of the imagination think that that 8th edition fantasy was coming to an end. Everyone that was playing, the rumor was circulating that End Times was going to blow up the universe. And I remember talking to the Games Workshop employee at the time, and he goes, "Oh, what do you think's going to happen here, huh? I'm just gonna pull a curtain over this side of the store and say you can't buy these models anymore." And lo and behold, kind of what happened. But still, Nagash was awesome because it showed us that we were getting really cool models, that those models were really awesome, they were really polished, they were on a whole different level of any Warhammer fantasy to that point. And it sucked to see Bretonnia kind of get its head pushed underwater very hard, and the Tomb Kings to just essentially get bent over backwards. But it was nifty to kind of see the Undead Legion be created, and just imagine it, like, if they kind of stick for Total War Warhammer 3 to this ability to choose different campaigns. Like, okay, here's the Warhammer 3 campaign, whatever it's called, the Ventures into the Realm of Chaos, and then the Mortal Empires, or maybe it's called Immortal Empires for 3, since it's probably going to add Mountains of Morn and the little connecting pass to Kislev and all that action, and then all the way southeast for Cathay. It'd be cool if they then had a third campaign option that was just End Times, and in that you have Bretonnia is already under siege by Malbod. Mm-hmm. You have the Undead Legion is already starting to kind of get, well, I guess chronologically the Undead Legion can't have formed if Malbod hasn't taken over or hasn't been defeated yet, because that's kind of the same point as Sen Moisital Abbey or whatever the hell. But to have that ability to essentially just start a campaign that is strictly the beginning of End Times, and the same way that you would start a Mortal Empires or a Vortex campaign, would be really cool. I think that'd be a really awesome capability. If you want to play End Times, go ahead, you can do it. It's encapsulated in its own portion, and then they can pull whatever they want from End Times and put it into the Warhammer 3 equivalent of Vortex, or the Immortal Empires, I'll call it, for Warhammer 3.
Yeah, and then this is a good point from Dave Roden here. I dropped a 5, thank you very much, man. End Times redraft, keep the good, throw out the bad, but if Throg doesn't piss on Sigval, be right. Well, that's a good point. I mean, honestly, like, if there's no golden showers in Warhammer 3, I'm probably not going to buy the game. I might not even make content for it.
Yeah, if I don't see a dick punch in the live, I'm not down.
Yeah, it's like, why even live? But no, it's a good point, because End Times, the nice thing about a Total War setting, if they did End Times, any element of End Times, is that you get to create your own narrative. So any part of the End Times that sucks, you can ignore. You can change the outcome. That is what would make an End Times expansion, DLC, whatever, so appealing for Total War Warhammer 3. And I'm not saying it needs to be there right away at launch. It can be a year down the line, 2 years down the line, whatever. But that is what makes it so appealing, is that, okay, we have this narrative that sucks. A lot of people hate what happened. They hate what happened to the characters. Now, you have the opportunity to be in the same situation, but change the outcome and make your own ending. That, in and of itself, I think it's a good thing that End Times was so reviled, so loathed in that situation, because now people can live out their fantasy of changing what was horrible about it. That is what makes it so appealing, and that's why I don't get this line that says, well, this isn't End Times, because, like, literally, they made this post, and we're all watching the trailer, and we can already see evidence. We can already see evidence that points to the opposite. What are you talking about? It's so weird to me. It's really quite bizarre. I don't want to focus on that element too much, because I mean, we don't know what's gonna come after. But like, it just seems so strange from a marketing perspective. It really.
Press release. After seeing Indie Pride's live stream, we've decided to pull the Bloodthirster and Keeper of Secrets from the game.
We are now
Here
using
you go.
first edition Bloodthirsters that look like Tyranids. Awesome.
No, it's just a 2D image. It's a sprite from the straight up of the 4th edition one.
Brandon Bailey, I would imagine they may try to hold out for end times for another game as they still want money, and this Warhammer train is rolling hard. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Thank you for the 5. Phil Moore, none of this matters. Wake me up when they rework Siege battles. Well, I can't. Well, I wouldn't say none of this matters. I would say Cathay definitely matters. I would say Kislev definitely matters. I'd say Demons of Chaos and Monogods definitely matter. But I agree. Sieges in Warhammer 2 and Warhammer 1 are shadows of what they could be. And the fact that we have to rely on mods to have a good experience on that front and a cinematic and entertaining experience on that front is very annoying. And it's not just the fact that you can only attack in sieges from one side. I think that's part of it, but there are very few tactics that actually matter or work that can be employed. One of the things we talked about in the run-up to Warhammer 1 is that each faction, their castles, their strongholds, their citadels should be different and laid out differently. Bretonnia should have castles that are conducive to heavy cavalry micro. And yet when you go into Khorne or Bordello, they have the same cookie cutter loadouts or layouts as every other faction's strongholds in the game. But worse than that, you can't maneuver your cavalry. Like, the streets are so narrow that they can't even get clean charge bonuses off, and cavalry is useless. Can you imagine being a Bretonian mason or engineer and building a castle, knowing that Bretonnia defends those castles with powerful knights and Grail Knights and Questing Knights and all that, and then making the streets and the courtyards and the choke points so tiny that you can't effectively use cavalry? And there's no such thing in this game like there was in Medieval 2 of like sallying out and fighting right outside the walls. You don't do that. That doesn't happen. So it's weird. It makes sense. I get it. There are 15 distinct races in this game. There are a million other things they needed to worry about. But Warhammer 3, especially with the fact that this game took so long to develop and we are still, I don't know, 8-9 months away from launch. It's a situation where it's like, okay, you gotta go in and start making these sieges more interesting. I think the Empire forts were an okay start, but you gotta go more than that. You've gotta do more to differentiate the factions. Because you look at the unit rosters, and they've done an amazing job differentiating Skaven from Bretonnia, Bretonnia from Norsca, Norsca from the Tomb Kings. But if the battlefields aren't conducive...
Have they though? I mean, like, I feel like the races themselves, they do that to themselves, but they're now kind of getting to a point where I feel like a lot of DLCs are kind of homogenizing a lot of races. Like,
I think that's a fair criticism, up to the point that there's now so much content in this game that it's almost guaranteed to rehash some stuff. Like, I don't know that they're, like, as a game developer, I've never seen this kind of variety. I don't know why I said as a game, like, I'm a game developer. That's not what I meant. I don't even know what that means.
Games you keep making.
I'm just throwing out words out there. No, it's I completely lost my train of thought. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that too, and like, I think you're also operating under the fact that a lot of people kind of critique and they cross-reference stuff for Total War Warhammer 1, 2, 3, and they look at, hey, well, it's not like that in the tabletop, but yeah, a tabletop's like a 4x6 board with, there's no ability for you to flank and then rear charge someone like you can in this game. So while Wood Elves in the past didn't have all these answers for all these different types of ways to play a game, it makes sense in, oh, that's so awesome, I see what you're doing. It makes sense in Total War Warhammer to, like you said, have a lot of redundancy, because otherwise you're going to play a faction that just can't perform on a map that's so huge now by comparison to what it was in tabletop.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is one of the things about the faction setup we have in this game right now. There's so much content in it now that you're in a situation where there's no possible way to not rehash some stuff. I think that was the ultimate point that I was trying to make there, is that, like, there's going to be some overlap here, right? Like even with Cathay, even with the Demons of Chaos, well, certainly with the Demons of Chaos, there is going to be overlap between the factions that says like, what I'm really curious about, what really needs to happen for the Demons and for Warriors of Chaos Undivided, which will presumably also be getting a rework, is that their hordes, the horde gameplay just needs to stop sucking. Like horde gameplay right now is super not entertaining. The Chaos campaign and the Beastman campaign right now are abysmal. They're actually abysmal. Like I would rather play Shogun 1 than go in and play a legit like full Warriors of Chaos campaign at the moment. It's super not entertaining. We do have a donation from the Great Betrayer. Would you say Nagash is the pre-order race? His territory is already there to play running up to game, plus they've been adding his territory recently. So I think that is a really interesting question. Let's pull up some images of the Ogre Kingdoms so people know what we're talking about. Ogre Kingdoms are super cool, guys. I mean, these guys are dope. So the reason I'm pulling up Ogre Kingdoms when he said Nagash, and I get that you probably love Nagash, and I think most of us do. I personally think that Nagash and Neferata and all that stuff will come later. That's not to say that they could not possibly be the pre-order bonus, but I think it is less likely than either the Chaos Dwarfs or the Ogre Kingdoms. My personal opinion right now is that Ogre Kingdoms will be it, but Chaos Dwarfs are, I mean, it's 50-50. Like, there's literally no way to know. It could be Dogs of War, so maybe it's not 50-50. Maybe it's like 40-40 and then like 10% Dogs of War. I personally think it would be a massive mistake to do Dogs of War before you get Ogres or Chaos Dwarfs. I personally think that Dogs of War would be easier than either of those two races, so that might be why it's appealing for them as a pre-order / early adopter bonus. And I'm expecting that it'll work the same as it does for Norska, right? Where you get them at the end of game 2, and then they become playable at the start of game 3 as well. And one thing that you have to think about is that if you are going to do it that way, and the pre-order bonus will be playable at the end of Warhammer 2's life cycle, you have to make it so that they can appear on the Vortex campaign. Dawi Zar, not necessarily going to be able to do that. I don't know if that's how the pre-order bonus will work. I saw a comment today that said that it would be more, that's not how it's going to work, that it's only going to be for Warhammer 3. I don't know if that's true. I don't think anybody but Creative Assembly knows that at this point. But if it's going to work like Norska, then I think Dawi Zar might be out as the pre-order bonus, simply because they're in Zarnagrund. They are not a Horde faction in any way, shape, or form. They are not going to show up on the Vortex campaign map. The Ogre Kingdoms may be a little bit more likely to do that simply because they're mercenaries, and Dogs of War are very logical to show up in the New World. Christopher Colombo and all those douches, the New World colonies, they very much have a chance for that. So from that standpoint,
just because they're Italian, is that why? That's what I want to make sure.
I'm pretty sure that I didn't stutter when I said that. Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong. But yeah, I think from that standpoint, if this faction, the pre-order bonus, is going to be in Warhammer 2, Dogs of War do make sense. With that said, I think they're much less hype, and this might just be personal bias speaking here, but I think that they have a lot less to offer in comparison to either the Chaos Dwarfs or the Ogre Kingdoms, which have, I mean, let's freaking look at these dudes, man. Look at Mournfang Cavalry for a second here. Like, look at Rhinox Cavalry, all this stuff. Like, how do you not want Monstrous Cavalry in Warhammer 3? Like, this...
They literally shoot like sharpened spoons and knives and forks and whatever they can find, like iron
out
belchers,
of cannons, yeah, lead belchers.
It's so sick.
Ogre Kingdoms are dope. Ogre Kingdoms are going to be like definitely one of the. I would love to see them on launch day. And I think they're just a faction that. Honestly, if I had to choose between Cathay and Ogre Kingdoms, if I had to choose one, 100% I'm going Ogre Kingdoms. There's not a question in my mind. The reason I'm happy about Cathay, and I think some people are kind of framing this incorrectly, they're saying, oh, Cathay replaced the Chaos Dwarfs. Cathay replaced the Ogre Kingdoms. No, we know what Dawi's are, and we know Ogres are still going to come. That's why I think it's good news, because now we get 3 factions instead of 2. But I get it why some people would say like
versus ones we definitely know are coming because they've got actual army books.
Yeah. The pre-order has got to be a faction everyone will want from a business perspective. It makes sense. Well, yeah, but how do you judge that? How do you gauge that? I don't know that there's necessarily a faction that everybody is going to want. I mean, a lot of people love chaos, but then you look at a lot of the comments on Total War forums or Reddit or whatever, and they're saying that monogods are a horrible idea. I personally think that a lot of the people that had that perspective are going to change that perspective once we actually play the game and see the unit rosters and see. One of the most annoying arguments for me for the Demons of Chaos is that people say like, oh, all these monogods are just going to play the same way. Well, no, they've got vastly different rosters and vastly different play styles. And we talked about it many times before, but Khorne gonna play nothing like Tzeentch. I mean, Khorne is all about magic resistance and overwhelming attack power, while Tzeentch is very fragile. I say that they have really high ward saves, but generally speaking, they have lower toughness, that kind of thing. They're more about magical potential. They're about shooting Eldritch Flame at you from downtown, kiting around you, being annoying that way, blasting you with etheric energies. Nurgle, very much about just being incredibly tanky and bruising and resilient and survivable, lots of regeneration, all that good stuff, but they're slow as hell. They have no mobility whatsoever. The only thing they can rely on there are plague drones, which again, another unit that's going to be in that kind of monstrous cavalry territory. Super high plague drones of Nurgle. Super cool looking in here. Yeah, look at these guys. Like, how do you not want this? Flying monstrous cavalry. Amazing. And then you have Slaanesh, which is just focused on pure mobility, armor-piercing potential. They outflank you. They use crazy lightning-fast chariots with 95+ speed. They have a Keeper of Secrets with a narcotic musk that exudes this weird sexual odor that makes people want to just, like, get down and jiggy with it, and then he just, like, bisects you in half, which is redundant.
Much like yourself.
Yeah. But yeah, like, they have very different rosters, and when you combine all the possible legendary lords for each of the Chaos Gods with their regiments of renown, with their unique units that you can pull from like a million different sources, not just 8th edition, but Forge World, Plague Toads, just lore snippets from books and stuff like that, you're going to be seeing incredibly well fleshed out and distinct rosters that are nothing even remotely similar. Like, you can't look at a Khorne roster and say that plays like Slaanesh. It doesn't. They're very, very different.
I mean, I agree with you, man. And kind of taking a step back here on what you were saying about the pre-order races, I think that if you're taking a look at this, like the Mortal Empire's map already kind of has where the Dawizar would be, right? Like in that little area directly north of what exists right now. So I think the Dawizar, I mean, if you wanted to put them into 2, I think they're actually easier to put in because of the most recent DLC added that chunk, but then shrouded it, right? Like you can't go there. It's all permanently covered. So, I mean, I think that there's a pretty, not like the super, like the highest likelihood that it's the Dawizar versus the Ogre Kingdoms, because like you said, they can be a revamped Horde faction, or they could just be mercenaries for other things. Like, I still think, though, that the Dawizar still have a very huge probability just because that portion of the map exists right now.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, I think that's a super good point, and it's one of the things that really kind of makes them, it kind of throws a wrench in everything, right? Because they've been expanding into the Darklands. We just got Neferata's spot at Silver Pinnacle. That is literally right at the edge of the Darklands. We just got a couple patches ago, we got Pig Barter and the element or the area of the campaign map where we have Imric, we have Clan Eshin, and we have Malice Darkblade. All that stuff is right around Cripple Peak and right at the southwestern portions of the Darklands. And so we know Chaos Dwarfs are going to be there simply because, one, they're a core faction. They are a major faction when it comes to Warhammer Fantasy. They were playable in 8th edition, even though technically their rule set came from 7th with Tamarkan, Throne of Chaos. But we know they're coming simply because of geography. You cannot have a massive void in the Darklands where Chaos Dwarfs live, just where their empire is, where it exists, and not make them playable at some point. And it makes me think, if they're not in that pre-order bonus, they're going to be there I would imagine they'll be there pretty soon after launch. They'll get tackled pretty quick. Now, someone else in chat just said, when do I think Nagash is coming? I think Nagash is less important for the Warhammer 3 campaign map, so I think he will come later. You can't have a massive void in the Darklands for long, because people are going to be seeing random factions and be like, that's not who should be there. It should be Dawizar. They would be correct. So I think Nagash, Neferata, those characters might come a little bit later in the life cycle of Warhammer 3, simply because they're at the southwestern portion of the border of the map. You'll be interacting with that area much less than you would the Darklands. So whether Chaos Dwarfs are there on day one or not, I think they will be there soon after. I mean, when did the Beastmen come after Warhammer 1 release?
It's just like the Tomb Kings, remember? The Tomb Kings had all those just static, random factions that as soon as the Tomb Kings came in February after the launch in September, they just pushed them all aside or got rid of them. And the Tomb Kings existed where they were. So it'd probably be something like that if the Dawis are not a launch race.
Yeah, and I would argue that the Tomb King situation was less important to add the Tomb Kings quickly, and that's why we probably saw them. We saw them about 5 months or so. We got the game in September, and then we didn't see Tomb Kings until January, I think. Maybe late January or February, yeah. It was less important to add them quickly because they were on the borders of the map. And then, now, that's not quite as true for Vortex. It's more talking about Mortal Empires. But even still, I mean, northern part of the Southlands, it's not the same thing as, say, in Warhammer 3, where the Darklands is literally probably going to make up the entire core of the Warhammer 3 campaign map. So I think that's an important thing to note there for sure. One thing I think we can do here, and I just got a donate. One thing I have forgotten to do is pull up PayPal. So,
idiot!
So stupid. Yeah, I can't see that donation until I open that up. So I'll do that real quick. Again, thank you all very much for your guys' generosity so far. You guys have been truly incredible today. I will make sure that I read off all the missed super chats and donations on PayPal and Streamlabs and what have you as soon as I can, probably near the end of the stream, but we'll log in here as well. So one thing I do want to do is take a look at some of these questions, and tell you what, Italian, if you want to do this for me.
Yes, Dad.
Chat, start asking like literally any question, comment, concern, trying to make it succinct, easy to read.
And mention me when you say it. So type in like @Italian Spartacus like this, and it'll pull my eye easier, and that way I can grab it. I can put it on a thing, and we can start answering some of those questions.
Yeah, ask some of those questions. And
here's one that we can answer while we're grabbing some, because this one's been asked a ton by Iggy Boom too. What will they do Sigvald on launch day? Will he affect the legendary lore distribution at launch, do you think?
No, I don't think Sigvald will affect distribution at launch, because we're only getting one monogod. Well, we're likely only getting one monogod faction, or one monogod legendary lord per race at the start. I think that he will probably get moved. It depends how robust the Warriors of Chaos Undivided rework is on day one. We know they're going to get their special units, so Skullcrushers of Khorne, Hellstriders of Slaanesh, probably Slaughter Brute, Mutalith, Vortex Beast. I think those are logical inclusions for the Warriors of Chaos on day one, simply because those are going to be made anyway. But if we're only getting one Demonic or Warriors of Chaos Lord per monogod faction on day one, then I don't think Sigvald will get moved in any... I don't think it'll be like a really high priority. When we get a Slaaneshi DLC or something like that, I think like a Lord pack, and by the way, there are a million possibilities for Lord packs here, which is really cool. That's where things could get really interesting, and when he'll probably get moved. Now, as we talked about this, the prevailing opinion is that it'll be 2 for Kislev, 2 for Cathay, 1 for each god, and then Be'lakor, the Dark Master, as maybe Chaos Undivided. Although, as I talked about in my video today, it is very interesting that there is no mention of Chaos Undivided as a playable race. Whether that means they will be playable or not be playable on day one, I do not know. it could be something that CA is holding on in the back pocket because they don't want to outright confirm that Be'lakor will be playable. But whether he is playable as a Legendary Lord or not, I do think he will be important to the narrative, simply because if we look at the letter that was sent by Yuri, and we can actually pull that up right now, there's some interesting comments here. So someone actually transcribed the entire letter. So look at this right here. Dear Yuri, while my only hope is that this will find you well, this is sent from Cathay.
The bold parts, but I didn't know someone actually transcribed that. See, like, that's the crazy thing about this. It's like, you and I will look at this stuff for a long time and go, oh, what do you think? Oh, I see these things. Yeah, me too. And then like someone will be like, so I transcribed it, I wrote it backwards, and then I played it through a vocoder, and it came out just like this. Like,
what the F? Yeah, so as I talked about in the trailer, now this is interesting here, and I'm actually curious about your opinion, Italian. So it says that there are 4 words here that are bolded. Yuri is Demon Prince. It's not in that order, but Yuri's at the top, is at the bottom, Demon, and then Prince. Yuri is Demon Prince, or is the Demon Prince. I personally said that I don't think Yuri matters here. It's the name of the character, so it makes sense that it's bigger and bolder, simply because it's who it's addressed to. I just focused on the is the Demon Prince, and so I took that to mean a hint at Be'lakor, because is Demon Prince, those are the things that are hinted at. And we saw on the Steam page, there is the one, and it's not been revealed who it is yet, but it's an overarching character that will need a champion for his conquest of the Chaos Realms. That sounds exactly like Be'lakor. I mean, it's kind of hard 100%. To skip over that, but like, if we read the transcribed letter, this was actually Monsters Abound who transcribed this, so thank you very much to him. He is on YouTube as well. While my only hope is that this finds you well, I know the hardship and peril into which I have ordered you. Forgive me for sending you so far into the north. Duty must come before us, and you are the only one I trust to complete this task. The Boyar's dispatches grow increasingly erratic. He claims to have heard the roar from either a greater demon or Be'lakor himself. We must act quickly, and so you must go with my complete authority. Then his hand covers it up, and it's kind of hard to read. And then there's a place mentioned called Devengard. I don't know if that shows up on the map for Kislev. Either way, whether it's in the south, east, whatever, it's probably a city or a small stronghold in Kislev. And it sounds like he's being used to garrison there. Could this Yuri be the second Legendary Lord? Maybe. I personally think that Tsar Boris makes more sense, although we talked about the kind of ramifications of his letter at the beginning of the trailer. We could kind of go over that in a second here too. But there was apparently Devengard does not show up on the map. So that was signed by Cathay. It doesn't have any like incredibly juicy info except for the fact that those things are bolded, which might be hinting at something. I don't think those are bolded just for funsies, but it could be a situation where, I mean, Demon and Prince and all those things, like maybe it's just his handwriting, but normally in these kind of teasers and these kind of trailers, especially when you see the map of Cathay get revealed, God, that shit-eating grin is so hilarious. Like, I saw, that was the part where I really freaked out. Like, I think I'm probably screaming a little bit like a girl when that happened. Like, he does this, and you see the Cathay map, and he just goes, hee. Like, that's literally like Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. I love that. I love stuff like that in trailers because they know what they're doing, and then everyone sees that and just goes, whoa, what just happened? Yeah, that's so hype.
2 things on what you said so far. That might not be Devengard, that might be Eringrad, which is basically how you get to Kislev.
That is a really good point, yeah.
And most people think that Yuri refers to Yuri Kovalenko, the guy who gets...
Yeah, he's an like Uncle tribesman, yeah.
Yeah, and he becomes corrupted by chaos.
Yeah, and that would make sense. Yuri is the Demon Prince. But at the same time, like, is he going to play some important role in the campaign? Or, like, Yuri is not an important character, right? Like, if you look at Kislevite lore, he has, like, a couple throwaway lines in, like, Warhammer Compendium or something. He doesn't matter. So, is CA going to...
does that matter? Because I feel like when you look at there's not a lot to go on for Kislev characters, period. Like, sure, Tsarina, I keep wanting to say Tsarina of Tokyo from the movie Three Musketeers.
That is an interesting...
Tsarina Katarine is cool in that she is the Ice Queen, like basically like Chronicles of Narnia, and she's the descendant of Boris Boca, whatever the hell, Boris Ursus. Boris Ursus is probably one of the cooler characters, or Ulrika, which is a really cool fleshed out character more recently in the lore. But I mean, I think that they kind of have free reign, just like they do with Cathay, to kind of just take whatever obscure character they want and run with it and make it like a more blown out, bigger thing. That way you're not kind of operating under any kind of specific constraints. You're not saying like, okay, well, this character wasn't alive at this time, so I have to kind of tiptoe around their narrative and make this stuff up or say these things and that thing. Like, I think taking a more obscure Kislev character and making it a front runner is actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
If that isn't happening.
Yeah. When I look at Yuri Kovalenko's lore, which again is not very much, he doesn't seem to me like a prince or like a legendary lord type character, but I personally think that it is more likely this is just a random Yuri who is a prince in Kislev, and I'm not sure he will play any role in Warhammer 3's campaign, but it's possible that he'll end up being maybe like an advisor to Katerin. I'd be surprised. Some people were saying this was my ultimate negative on why I don't think he's going to be like, when people said, oh, Yuri is the demon prince, is what that letter's trying to say. It doesn't make sense to me because this is a character who just showed up, and ascending to demonhood takes a long time, right? Like, we're talking like centuries in the warp, fighting crazy feats of martial prowess for the dark gods. You don't become a demon prince overnight. So if this is someone that Katerin trusts, and this letter's being sent to him, and she still trusts him, and he's not been gone a long time, it's not possible for him to have ascended to demonhood given the week, 2 weeks, month, whatever he's been gone. It's not possible for Yuri to be the demon prince unless it was someone hiding the entire time in plain sight, which some people have suggested. This guy right here, who I think is the Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 campaign advisor, this could actually be Be'lakor as well. This could have been a long game, a long con from Creative Assembly, where they didn't want to give you all the info, or maybe even when Warhammer 3 came around, they decided like, maybe we can do something more with this character. This could be like Be'lakor in shape-shifted form, and he is going to pretend to be a scrub-ass random little Tzeentch guy that's not really that big a deal. Yeah, and then he just appears as a much more powerful demon later in the campaign. I don't necessarily agree with that idea, but it was an interesting one that was brought up. And yeah, Changeling is another one. It's definitely Tzeentch in some sort. Be'lakor certainly has the power to shapeshift and pretend to be someone else. He's an extremely powerful demon. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that this is the guy who, one, looks like the guy in the Warhammer 1 cinematic trailer, but also looks like the Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 campaign advisor, only this time doesn't have a busted up eye, and he looks a little bit younger and more vigorous now. Very interesting. Big thank you to Timothy Farrell for the 3 on PayPal, and we got a 5 that just disappeared, god damn it. Flying Potator, Time Spartacus, sorry missed out most of the stream, so maybe it was covered, but what about the Cathay? Can it possibly be in the game at launch? Yeah, so, oh my god, $50, or wow, we'll check that in a second.
Bomber.
Thank you for the 10, Flying Potato. Yes, Cathay is a playable faction. They will be there on launch day. They are not the pre-order bonus. They are not the early adopter bonus. They are legit a playable race. So yeah, that's crazy hype for sure. Muramasa with the 50. Cathayan lore is very strong in Magic, with the 2 they most use is High and Dark Magic, Yin and Yang. They even have a device called Cathayan Jet that protects wearers from hostile magic, except for High, Gut, and Dark Magic. That is a lot of information I actually did not have about Cathayan. What source does that come from? It's very interesting. But thank you very much for your generosity there, Muramasa. Very much appreciated. Yeah, so let's talk about some...
I have got so many questions because I have pretty much taken anyone that has said my name and has asked a question, and I put it in this in our Discord.
By the way, I tell you, at any point, if you get bored and want to go somewhere else, like just bounce, dude. Like it's there's no pressure on you here whatsoever. I've invited him on so we could talk, and I think it's more entertaining when people can bounce ideas off each other and stuff. But again, like, dude, if you gotta go do stuff, like, do it. If you want to stay, whatever you want to do.
Oh, I'm good. I'll be here for probably another like 30-45 minutes.
Okay, which probably gonna be how long the stream is anyway. But pop some questions my way and let's see what happens.
So let's see here. Because some of these we've kind of touched on a little bit, but I think this is a really good one. One you and I have talked about too before. Who will the Chaos Dwarf Legendary Lords be?
Okay, so it's a very good question. There are 4 that make sense to me. There may be like 5. I'm actually kind of forgetting one of their names right now. But Astrogoth. What?
Which one? Like, describe them.
I don't know. That's the point. I'll say the names, and then if there are any names that I've forgotten, tell me.
Okay.
Astrogoth Ironhand is the head of the Priests of Hashut. He is half mechanical at this point. He's basically turned to stone, and to essentially any Hashut lore user turns into a rock over time. And
right.
Astrogoth Ironhand is incredibly old, incredibly powerful. He is now turning himself into a transformer to allow himself to continue moving. He will be the first or second legendary lord. He will probably start in, I think, Zornagrund. Drazoath the Ashen is the head honcho for the Legion of Asgore. He'll be out to the west in the Darklands. He has a big rivalry with Astrogoth. He leads his own sub-faction. He's the guy who's going to have all the Infernal Guard. He's the guy who's going to have the fire glaives and all that crazy type weaponry we saw in Tamarkan Throne of Chaos. And he rides a gigantic bull Taurus called Cinder Breath. Zatan the Black is the Lieutenant of the Black Tower. And Shartor the Executioner is a, I believe, Age of Sigmar character. But it would make a lot of sense for Creative Assembly to tackle a Bull Centaur Turuk type of legendary lord. I think that there's almost no way they'll do a Chaos War faction and not flesh out a character in that way. So again, the End Times thing doesn't make sense to me because Chaos Dwarfs, when they come as a campaign pack, if that's how they come, will have 4 legendary lords. If not at launch, at some point, it doesn't make sense for me, or it doesn't make sense for them to cut out that stuff because there is no named Bull Centaur character in Warhammer Fantasy, to the best of my knowledge. The only ones are in Age of Sigmar. Shartor the X. I'm actually going to show him because he looks super badass. Let's go. So one thing that we'll work on here, obviously, my ability to handle OBS and stuff because I haven't been streaming a lot. It's not great, so I keep having to pull this up. And we'll get hotkey set up and we'll get the production quality higher for subsequent streams. But Shartor the Executioner here.
Did you you didn't say Rykarth, did you? The Unbreakable? Rykarth the Unbreakable?
No, I did not. So that was probably who I was forgetting about. What does he do?
That's the guy who's like super resilient and he like leads a bunch of armies during the war for the Nemesis Crown. Like he's like a paragon of dwarf resilience in the Chaos Dwarf realm. Like that's like his big shtick.
I love that this dude's name is Shart. Shart the Executioner. Yeah, so this is a Bull Centaur type of character. Now, will he be in Warhammer Fantasy in a Total War Warhammer 3? I have no idea. Again, I think that it is always logical for Creative Assembly to get a bunch of dynamic going with their Legendary Lord selections, so they should be getting characters that are vastly different from each other and represent a different element of that race's culture. So having a Bull Centaur Lord makes a lot of sense. I think he would make a lot of sense as a Lord. They might have to change his visuals a little bit to bring it more in line with 8th edition, but honestly, I think that looks fine. Like, I can't see that being like, oh, that's Age of Sigmar. That could easily, just as easily be in 8th edition, and as we've seen with a lot of the stuff that came late in 8th, I mean, the visuals just kind of work. Like, those models are objectively, in my opinion, better than a lot of the content that came in 3rd, 4th, or 5th, and certainly when you look at, like, what is the model of Nagash that is horrendous? Is that like 3rd edition, 4th edition?
Oh god, I think it's 3rd edition.
I'll
Just type in Nagash Undead Legion.
Here we go. Yeah, like look at this. This is, I mean, it's hilarious, but it's abysmal. Like, can you imagine this showing up in Total War Warhammer 3? 0% chance. Compare that to his big dick daddy Nagash model. Like, no, it's not even it's not even a question which one they will go for.
Okay, but take a look. Take a look at the old Undead Army book. It's like 2 pictures down, 1 to the left.
This one?
I don't know. I gotta wait for it.
Say it again.
The Undead Army book.
Yeah. I clicked on it. It's very small.
Oh, damn it, never mind.
No,
I was just saying, like, that level of art back then was so awesome, but then you got these mismatched models.
Doesn't work in video game form, though. Like, it's hilarious, but Proctor with the 5, have you noticed the undivided symbol on the right-hand side next to the faction pieces? Faction pieces where?
People are saying, so if you look at the end of the Cathay picture, or at the Cathay reveal, he moves one dossier to the side, and it's like a snowflake that looks like an 8-sided star, like, or 8-pointed star. So it looks like the Chaos Undivided symbol. Right
when Cathay... Oh, I see it. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, but that's just literally the symbol of chaos in general. So whether you're doing Monogods or Undivided, like, that's kind of... The 8-pointed star is just chaos in general. Like,
right. Like, I don't think that Creative Assembly would go as far as to, like, say, like, we hit a clue like that in that portion right there, like, as disguised as like a Kislev finery chaos star. Like, I don't think that they would do that. I think they would do something like the page, though. Like, I could see them putting like a clue with the text on there, like being something. Like, I could see that more so than the a Kislev styled chaos star.
Yeah, but thank you very much for the 5, Proctor. Much appreciated, my guy. Pop me another question.
All right. Let's see. We answered this, but I'll just rehash it real quick. Will pre-order race be playable in Game 3 from day 1? We're not 100% sure.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't know. It could be a situation like Norska, where you get it a month or 2 beforehand, get to play it in Warhammer 2, and then in Warhammer 3, they get their own start position, blah, blah, blah. Or it could be more like the older pre-orders for older games, like Shogun 2 and stuff, where, or Attila, the Viking forefathers for Attila, for example, where you just get them in that game and they don't show up anywhere else, and we just don't know yet.
So this is another good one that I think has some teeth to it, because I honestly feel like if they were to, or whenever the hell this happens, I think it would make sense for Dwarfs to get an update with it. But do you think they will forget about the Dwarfs if the Chaos Dwarfs are released?
Do I think they'll forget about the Dwarfs if Chaos Dwarfs are released? Like, won't release more
like
content for them?
No updates, nothing. I think that's what he means by that. That's the question.
Well, I think one of the huge issues that we've been having, and I talked about it in my What's Next for Warhammer 2 video from a month or so ago, is that Creative Assembly are only doing one Warhammer 1 faction a pop. And so what that's doing is making it so that Warhammer 2 factions become really, really bloated.
Right.
And they get Lord packs that they really shouldn't have, when they should just be focusing on Warhammer 1 stuff now to bring them up to speed. I don't think that CA will forget about Dwarfs. I am sure they will get more content at some point, because as we know, the Ungrim Ironfist move, the Giant Slayer edition, and the Rune Forging or Oath Gold editions, while nice, were hardly the same as the reworks for the Wood Elves, or that we'll probably get for the Beastmen. Like, it's not on the same level at all. So I'm going to be curious to see how they handle that. I personally think that we will see more Dawi stuff. I just think it's frustrating how they keep shoehorning Warhammer 2 factions into these Lord packs, when Warhammer 2, like, just be done with the base game races, man. Dark Elves, Lizardmen, High Elves, and Skaven don't need more content for a long-ass time. Like, it's Warhammer 1 that is far behind at this point. Do Dwarfs, do Beastmen for sure, obviously. Bretonnia, whatever. Norska, I would love to see a Norska update, because they only have 2 lords, and I imagine that can't hold true forever. They just need to focus on Warhammer 1 stuff to bring them up to speed before we get to Warhammer 3, so then you can focus on the Warhammer 3 stuff and not continue this disgusting cycle of power creep and bloating that we've seen for so long. We got a $20 donation from Hurricane Irma. Are Chaos Dwarfs grumpier than normal Dawi? How do they play on the battlefield? What makes them a problem to play against? Okay, well, Dawizar are a more versatile faction than the Dwarfs. The downside they have is that their actual infantry, their Chaos Dwarf elite, they are all very elite, and they are all very low in number. They are limited by the fact that they have a very low population count. They make up for that fact by swarming the field in Hobgoblin and Greenskin slaves. Black Orcs were created in the slave pits of Tsar Nagrund. They were a failed experiment because the Black Orcs were too strong for the Dawizar, and they busted out, led by Grimgor, and headed west to the Badlands. But the Chaos Dwarfs, they have overwhelming artillery firepower. They have bull centaurs for mobility on the flanks, which are essentially monstrous cavalry. They aren't statted exactly like monstrous cavalry. They aren't quite as powerful, I don't think, but they're pretty close. I mean, they're like legit heavy cav with good mobility. They're scary. They'll have armor-piercing bonus for storage, that kind of stuff. They can be led by Taruks, which are a hero bull centaur. All that stuff means that they are more versatile than the Dawi. But the Dwarfs, as we know, can actually swarm the field, contrary to their lore. In the lore, they're a dying race. They don't have a lot of bodies to spare. In Warhammer 2, you can kind of swarm the field with cheap dwarf fodder with high armor and good missile block chance and all that, and you can kind of stuff up the field with all that good stuff. So I think overall the Chaos Dwarfs will have better mobility with the Bull Centaurs. They'll have maybe not quite as reliable, but more powerful firepower. They have a literal artillery train. They have Earthshaker cannons and huge artillery pieces all across the board, magma cannons, that kind of thing. And their downside, I think, will be that their Chaos Dwarf infantry, the Infernal Guard with fire glaives and all that, will just be very, very expensive. So that's pretty much the difference between those two races. Dwarfs, regular dwarfs, can swarm the field. They've got great, accurate artillery. They've got great ways to slow and control you. But they are not quite as versatile, even with their Gyrocopter Air Force, as the Chaos Dwarfs.
Versatile, a gentleman of extreme culture and class. The
Always.
little accent you threw on that.
Always. Za Hondo with the 5. Do you think the haunted forest down by Inn will be a wood elf settlement? No idea, man. I've never heard of it in my life. I don't know. I don't really know anything about hinterlands of Koresh or Ind, other than there are snake men and tiger people, tiger beastmen, that kind of thing. There's not a whole lot to go on for those factions at the moment. Yeah. So shoot me something Italian.
Okay, let's see here. Let me go to one of the earlier ones.
And thank you guys for joining on stream today. Like we've had 3,000 or 2,500 to 3,000 for most of this so far. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I'm glad you guys can share in the hype with us, because as content creators, we obviously adore these kind of reveals, not just because they can be lucrative, but I mean, we are legitimately passionate about this stuff. It's fun as hell to talk about, and it's fun as hell to share with you guys. So thank you for tuning in and enjoying in the show. Yeah, ask me a question. I'll be able to hear you the whole time, but I'm gonna drain the lizard. So just ask me a question. I'll answer it back.
I'll ask it and start answering it for you, then you jump in. So how likely is Scarbrand? I think that we both agree that Scarbrand is extremely likely. We were just talking about all 4 of the legendary lords for Chaos Demons. If there are in fact 4 legendary lords for Chaos Demons, being the Chaos Demon lords. So Inkari, Scarbrand for Khorne, not Tularis. What am I thinking of? That's the Dark Elves. The Tzeentch guy that my brain just crapped out on, that I know you can hear me with. Kairos. Yeah, Kairos.
Sartorial.
Sartorial, yeah, Sartorial.
So Chase, Italian and I have an inside joke that Sartorial will be the playable faction for Tzeentch, or the playable lord for Tzeentch on launch day. And while it's actually not that funny, it's a situation where if that actually happened, it would be very upsetting. One, because we've had the model in the game for like 4 years now, so it wouldn't be exciting in any way, shape, or form. Also, while it is a cool model, I would say that Sartorial is on the very low end of how cool Lords of Change can actually be. Like a Kairos Fate Weaver model updated would look way damn cooler. Let's actually take a look at this here and show that off. So gamer. I'm a gamer, dude. Gamer. Fate.
While you're looking at it, I'll give you another one because I'm gonna go drain the lizard myself.
Yeah. So look at this guy compared to. I'm gonna talk for so long so you can't ever leave.
Your dream horde mechanic. Go.
Dream horde mechanic. Okay. Kairos Fate Weaver. Like that is. Let's all agree in chat right now. Like this is way cooler than Sartorial looks. Like and from what we've seen with the Great Unclean One. Oh yeah. By the way, someone mentioned earlier on chat. I forgot to respond to it. I saw them message me about it. They said that the Great Unclean One is clearly Rodigus Rotfather, or Rodigus. I disagree. I do not think there is a single named demon that showed up in a single one of the cinematic stills in that trailer. I don't think any of them were named. I think it was a generic Great Unclean One, generic Keeper of Secrets, generic Lord of Change, and generic Bloodthirster. And definitely the one that Katarina was fighting, generic Bloodthirster, I'm pretty sure. I do not think they have revealed or unveiled a single named character for demons yet. Obviously, we can make some good predictions on who they will be, but I do not think they've actually... I don't think they were implying or forcing the idea in our heads that that is Rodigus or Kugath or whatever. I think they're just generic lords. Because as we know, greater demons lead the armies of the demonic forces of the Chaos Gods, and while there are named characters for each of those, they will look and play slightly differently than the generic lord types that will not only be lords. I'm actually going to be curious to hear what Italian has to say about this, but I'm going to be curious if it's not only they won't only be generic lord slots, but if they'll also be in the rare slots. Like if you can bring a Bloodthirster as part of your army, but not as your lord or not as a hero. I hope so, because you should be able to use a Bloodthirster if you're using Uzul the Skulltaker or someone who is not a Bloodthirster in your army. I do not remember how that worked in 8th edition. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe that you could bring greater demons in the rare slot as part of your army. Obviously, there's no rare core special in Total War Warhammer, but I think you should be able to bring someone like a Lord of Change, not just as a Lord, but as a probably slightly worse statted unit in your army. Oh my goodness, we got some donations here, boys. We got the $70 from Lauren. Do you think we'll see the Kingdom of Ind as the pre-order race, as they may choose to make the Monkey King related to the Isles of the Monkey King south of Ind? Also love the work, Any Pride. Hope to see it continue well into the future. Thank you very much for your generosity, my friend. Much appreciated. I think Ind, at this point, still seems a little bit unlikely. Look, all bets are off. Cathay's in the goddamn game. We could get whatever the hell CA wants to make, whatever Creative Assembly wants to make, whatever Games Workshop wants to make. I think that Cathay was quite the undertaking, and probably took some convincing on CA's part to get it happening in a game like this. So, I would say that expecting Hinterlands of Karish, Ind, Nippon, all that stuff on top of it, maybe not realistic, at least not early on. Maybe if we're talking about like 5 years down the road when they see how well Cathay has done, how well Warhammer 3 sold, that could be a time where they say, hey, let's go back and do Ind. Let's go back and do Tiger Beastman. Let's go back and do Hinterlands Crash. That would be the right time to do it. As a pre-order bonus, no. I think CA realizes that Cathay is already going to make some people annoyed simply because they feel, oh, they're replacing Chaos Wars. Oh, they're replacing Ogre Kingdoms. So I don't think there's really much of a chance of an Ind pre-order bonus early on. I just don't see that happening.
Just like a point on that, like having like gone to Creative Assembly's office plenty of times and having like talked to them about how like DLC stuff works versus launch stuff, you have to imagine this too, like the launch team that is putting together all these races, all these mechanics, these maps, whatever it is, right? Their budget is insane compared to a DLC budget, where every year they have to fly out to Japan to like Sega's headquarters and get approved for their budget. And wireframes are the most expensive things. So if you're talking about a brand new race that has probably no existing wireframes, period, unless they want to use some things like in the one guy's art station, he shows this big, huge Titan thing. That might be the Hero Titan wireframe, or a couple other things that can be reused from just like generic Empire models. But in my opinion, if you're going to do Cathay, they're probably going to do it really hard right out the gate because it has the most budget to do so. And a DLC faction like the Chaos Dwarfs, all those wireframes exist in one way, shape, or another. It's a real easy thing to just go, okay, well, our team's diminished down to like 40% of what it was. We have budget to just basically reskin things and change things and make new textures. And I think people get like a little scared when I say what I'm saying, but like, think of the Rotting Leviathan. That is the wireframe of a Ragnarok spider, but every individual thing on it animates and moves, and it's diverse and it's unique. So I think that taking Cathay and having it be a launch faction is super smart because you're going to get the most love for it versus Chaos Dwarfs already kind of exist in the game in some shape or another, or Ogre Kingdoms, which I don't imagine are too departed from stuff that already exists as far as some of the monstrous infantry units in the game from the wireframe perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. I think one of the great things, and one of the reasons why they pursued Monogods so vociferously here, is that there's a lot of assets and a lot of things that can be reused, but not in like the gross way of reusing them. So for example, Blood Crushers of Khorne have the same mount as Skull Crushers of Khorne. Immediately right there, you not only have 2 full units there, because, well, essentially Bloodletters are going to be riding the Juggernaut mount. You already have the Juggernaut mount. Bloodletters are their own unit. They also run on top of Skull Thrones of Khorne, and like, there's just a lot of reusing of assets between the factions, between Warriors of Chaos and Demons. If you look at any mount for the Warriors of Chaos, the Hellstriders of Slaanesh use the same mount as Seekers of Slaanesh. Seekers are the Demonette equivalent. Hellstriders of Slaanesh are the Marauder equivalent. They ride the exact same steed of Slaanesh. So with all these units here, there's a lot of ways to add a bunch of variety for multiple factions while doing it in a cost-effective manner that benefits multiple races and gives us more stuff to play with overall. Right. So I think that's one of the big reasons why they're going for Monogods, because a lot of the core elements of the game, a lot of the core units of the game are going to be seen in a lot of different ways, and then that allows them to, with DLC and free DLC and stuff, flesh it out even further, which is pretty dope.
Yeah, it's like, I think this was way back. I think around Vampire Coast, they had told me like a lot of the time when it comes to DLC, we have to look at what do we have budget for? Do we want to add 3 new units or build the wireframe for 1 unit? And that's what a lot of DLC comes down to for that stuff. So I think that's why it's like a pretty sharp and awesome way to do exactly what you said, where it's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to make this wireframe for this 1 unit. It's actually going to make us 3 units because it's like repeated across the entire faction in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
So discounts.
I know a lot of you guys are talking about like pre-order and stuff like that, and the desire to do so through Steam or whatever. Again, I know I made a pinned comment post on the video I posted today. If you are interested in pre-ordering the game, obviously you don't have to. There are a lot of people who don't want to, and that makes a lot of sense. But if you are interested in pre-ordering and are not in a rush, my Nexus page should hopefully be live tomorrow. It does not look like Nexus is going to be able to get it up today, unfortunately. But if you want to help support the channel and buy a game that you're probably planning on getting anyway, then through my Nexus page, and a lot of people used it for the Twist and the Twilight DLC, and it went really well, and I don't believe people ran into any issues on that front whatsoever. It's literally a Steam key. So yeah, you'll get the pre-order bonus and everything through that as well. So if you want to pre-order through my Nexus page, that affiliate link should hopefully be live tomorrow. That would be dope. If not, if you just want to get it through Steam or Epic, no problem whatsoever. But if you want to help support the channel, that is a awesome way to do it, because a lot of you guys will be pre-purchasing the game anyway. Let me take a look at the documents here and look at topics. So one thing we haven't talked about are Ogre Kingdom's Legendary Lords. So I think we talked about 4 for the Chaos Dwarfs. Shortor the Executioner, Drazwat the Ashen, Zatan the Black, and Astragoth Iron Hand, and the possibility of a 5th. For the Ogre Kingdoms, Greasus Goldtooth, Scrag the Slaughterer, Goldfag Maneater, and Gark Ironskin are pretty logical ones. Could also go Brag the Gutsman there. If you had to choose, let's say 4 Legendary Lords, but maybe cut it down to 2 after that, who are your go-tos? Like, who do you think has to be there?
Greasus for sure.
Yeah, he's the faction leader, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be. And
he's
then,
the over tyrant. He's the faction leader.
I know I did a video on this and I didn't get demonetized, but I'm just gonna say a portion of his name, Golg. You know the last 2 letters. I think he makes a really good option because he would start near Karak Azul, so you'd get 2 different portions of Badlands because he's always haranguing around Karak Azul, and he always gets into it with Thork Ironbrow. He has a big relationship with humans and stuff, so maybe if there's humans in Pig Barter, he starts close to them or has a natural ally with them. I think that character is really cool too because it is just different than Greasus. But I guess if we're talking about a caster lord, I can't remember the name of the Firebelly one.
I don't think there is a named Firebelly. I could be incorrect. But
no, you're right. It's Lore of the Maw. The guy's a Lore of the Maw dude.
Yeah, it's Scrag the Slaughterer.
Thank you. Yes.
So I'll show a picture of him here. This is Scrag the Slaughterer. You can see he's on his Cauldron of the Great Maw, and this is a super cool character. He's actually in my top 5 most. It was like not most unique, but most like crazy over the top legendary lords that will likely be coming in Warhammer 3. He has a massive selection of buffs for Gorgers. Gorgers are basically famished, starved ogres who are kicked out of their tribes and become like feral beasts that live in the mountains. And Scrag, as the avatar of the Great Maw, essentially, he has a bloody cauldron where he is almost like he's not a Mortis engine per se, but he's kind of like the focal point around which the entire battlefield turns. And it's kind of like Murderous Prowess for the Dark Elves, where the more kills he gets, the better his Gorgers get, which is super dope. So, I don't remember all the exact buffs, but it's really cool because if he gets, say, 50 kills, he hits a threshold, and all his Gorgers will get regeneration. And then he hits 100 kills, and they'll all get frenzy and physical resistance. And then he hits 150, and he gets even more on top of that. So, he'll give those things map-wide. He will literally play like himself. Instead of the army-wide abilities we will probably see for Khorne, like there'll be a blood for the blood god mechanic, probably very similar to the Dark Elves one, where the more you kill, the better Khorne gets. It'll be like that for him, but it's only for him and his Gorgers, which is really cool. So I'm very excited to see Scrag. I think he's by far the most unique legendary lord on the Ogre Kingdoms roster, and he has a lot to offer. Maybe not so much from like a narrative perspective, because I don't think any of the ogres are very deep or nuanced or interesting in terms of like a narrative, but they're really cool from a gameplay perspective, obviously. And the one lord I think in the Ogre Kingdoms roster that is really cool that we might not see is Gark Ironskin. So I don't know if he ever had a model in Forge World or anything, but
I don't think so. He might be one of those obscure like hero-based lords or hero-based characters that never really gets its just deserved.
Look at that, man! Look at that model. So he is fully kitted out, almost like a black orc.
Oh man, yeah,
almost like a black orc, but he's riding a mechanical Rhinox, or it's a it's almost like a blood crusher, but I think it's a mechanical Rhinox, and he rides that out of the east, the far east, maybe even east of the mountains of Morn. So I don't know that we'll get him. If we get 4 lords, I think he's a possibility. Brag the Gutsman would maybe be in that 4th lord slot. I think this is not Brag, but this is like the generic.
Ogre Tyrant.
No, it's there's a hero version. Tyrant is. It's like Pudge from Dota 2. They've got the hook. No, literally.
Not a huntsman.
Yeah, it's not Hunter.
Yeah, Christ, dude.
Right, I'll just show.
Remember when we made videos on this stuff?
Well, you know what? I've been on point with my lore today, sir.
Butcher.
Okay. Are you sure? Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, Brag the Gutsman. So this is Brag the Gutsman. He's a hero in tabletop. I believe Golg FAG Maneater. Yeah, I don't think that would ever demonetize a video, but I guess it's not really worth
it. It didn't for me, but I just didn't want to say it on your
Yeah.
channel and be like, ha, did it.
You demonetized it. Yeah, so this is Bragg. He would be in the 4 slot. Him and Golg are the 2 heroes. But again, if ogres are a campaign pack, although to be honest, the early adopter bonus is called a race pack. I don't know if CA is going to change the naming conventions for those things or change the definitions of them. But I mean, he's pretty cool. I think Gark is way cooler. I personally don't care if we get Bragg the Gutsman in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he's needed. But
yeah, I agree with you. Wasn't he dropped into 8th edition? There is, maybe it's the Hunter character that was dropped. Like, this is the Gutsman. There was a Hunter character that was dropped from 6th to 8th edition.
I'm not sure. Vinius Varen, $10 for the $10 word vociferous. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, the vocabulary here is on fleekazoid, my guy, as you can tell.
I know, dude. This is you're on point, man. I'm over here just like your narrator or your operator in the tower. Like, all right, I got you another question here.
Yeah,
sir. Like,
Bragg.
Did you want another coffee?
Bragg is in 8th, but he's a hero, not a lord. I don't think that's what Italian was saying. I think he was making a different point. But you know, sometimes he just says things. Sometimes I just say things. Sometimes we don't.
I got a whole channel off of it. All I did is just things. I gotta look it up now. I gotta look at the 2 codexes because there's one character that just isn't in the 6th.
Would Clan Eshin now be placed in Cathay, considering their lore? Ooh, I have not considered that at all. I think you will definitely see minor Eshin, or maybe just Eshin settlements in general in the Cathay area for sure. Oh, hold up. Okay, yeah, I want to make sure I'm not like playing copyrighted music. That would have been annoying. I think we'll definitely see Cathay sub-factions around there, but I don't know that we will necessarily get a full, like, Clan Eshin. Like, I don't think Snicketch will get moved there. One right. Skaven Lord I think will get moved is Tzeentch.
Yeah, give him back.
I could be wrong, but I think going to the Clan Rictus stronghold in Crookback Mountain would be very logical, but we shall see on that front. Hard to know.
I mean, they already have that. What is it called there? It's like a... Not the actual Clan Rictus clan. It's called like Clan Rictus like Spawn Clan or something like that.
Yeah, it's the Clan Rictus something nest, stronghold nest or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like okay, pop them over there, clan nest. Pop them over there when the actual fleshed out portion of that area is there. Like that makes more sense, I guess. But I think he needs to move over there. It kind of feels a little weird, especially it's getting really crowded in that area.
Yeah, 100%. I hate that element of like the southern part of the Darklands. I don't even know if it's technically part of the Darklands, but it's just south of Cripple Peak, or east of Cripple Peak, right where Pig Barter is, right where Emmerich and Malice and all that stuff are. Malice is okay, simply because he has his own islands and he doesn't really get attacked by many people. But like the Emmerich and Snicketch situation is so annoying. Playing that on very hard or legendary against Clan Eshin is the most goddamn annoying thing ever, because you gotta cross the marshes and deal with all that bullcrap, and Eshin like just diarrhea stacks out of their buttholes like at a rate that is truly obscene. Like it's actually obscene, and it's not fun to play against.
On that note, I will be departing you now, sir. Diarrhea is always the thing that gets me going. But you have on the Discord, our Discord, every single question that we haven't answered is there, and I just deleted the ones that we did answer.
Dope. Thank you very much. I appreciate the help, man. And again, Italian Spartacus, his channel is called Italian Spartacus. If you guys want to go check him out, please do so. He is well versed in Warhammer Fantasy Lore. He is a lore goblin like myself, and he's been doing some dope content over there. So go check him out.
Thank you very much, man. Well, hey, enjoy the rest of your stream. Happy Announce Day, and I'll talk to you probably later or tomorrow for some Hunt Showdown.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Later, my dude. And bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so we'll probably go for a little bit longer because there are a lot of more questions. If you guys have any more, feel free to drop them in chat, and I will make sure that I also hit up those donations at the end as well. We got the BMW Force, $10. Araby got pre-order bonus. There's already 3 Chaos Team factions. We need more neutral good factions. That's just my opinion. I mean, I agree. Like, I personally don't have an issue with Araby at all. There's always been that element of the faction that, like, some people, and this always happens, like, I hate diving into the counter SJW debate, whatever. I don't like getting into that stuff, but there are people that don't like the idea of Araby because they feel like it is a misrepresentation of the culture. With that said, I think you can make the exact same argument to Bretonia or the Holy Roman Empire or all these like, they are meant to be caricatures, and I get that it is designed mostly by British white people, but at the same time, I just, like, it is a simple thing to do an Araby faction, not in creating the faction from the ground up. That's obviously not simple at all, but it is very easy to be culturally sensitive and still have a awesome faction that shows off their roster and its fullest potential. And I don't see the problem there at all. I do not see why Araby would be an issue. I think Creative Assembly should do it. I'm hoping that Cathay is opening the door for them. But again, I think people need to steel themselves for the possibility that Cathay is a one-off simply because it opens a door to a new market, and they've already done something similar with Three Kingdoms, which was financially lucrative as all hell for them. Like, I don't think there's necessarily any reason to assume that just because Cathay happens that Amazons will happen. Certainly not Pygmies. My god, Pygmies are an actual problem. That's never going to happen. But yeah, I mean, Araby I think is fine. Albion would certainly be fine. There are a lot of minor factions that would be really, really cool, and I don't think they'll happen anytime soon, but later down the line, 4 or 5 years after Warhammer 3 has been out and the life cycle of the game's coming to a close, why not? Why not? We've seen the fruit that this relationship between G-Dubs and Creative Assembly has borne, and I think there's a lot to be said for making this gravy train run for as long as possible. It's obviously been good for CA, it's been good for Games Workshop, it's making them money, people are enjoying it. Why not? Why not? But to answer your question, no, as a pre-order bonus, I think there's close to a 0% chance on that front. What do you think of adding the Sky Titans? I believe they have been completely eradicated from the Warhammer world, so, and honestly, they're giants, they're just like bigger giants. You could make a cool faction. I think there's a giant faction in Age of Sigmar now called the Gargants. I don't know too much about it, but they're pretty cool. It's a possibility, but I think probably not anytime soon. Let me drop out of this call, actually. Okay, so let's see if there are any questions here that Italian sent to me that are very much worth discussing. How the hell is Norska going to survive against Chaos Demons and Kislev? They aren't. Until Kislev gets they used to be just a cancer, a blight upon the world. Early in their life cycle, they were super strong, and they have just gotten weaker and weaker and weaker. And I know that Legend and some other content creators make fun of Throg and some of the other legendary lords, and basically, like, the only way to do well with them is, like, Doomstack Mammoths and stuff, but their economy sucks, their ability to expand sucks. They'll probably get their ass kicked, honestly. Like, that's probably the answer, which is okay. I mean, I'd much rather be invaded by a full, legit Monogod or Chaos Undivided Demons roster than Norska. I think Demons are just more intimidating, so from that standpoint, it doesn't really bother me too much, but yeah, Norska could use some love for sure. Steam forums are just full of China has took control of the game, even though Cathay has always existed. Yeah, I mean, ignore it. It's really what it comes down to, man. Just like, there are always going to be those kind of people. It's fine if you don't like Cathay, but the whole, like, the CCP has infiltrated Creative Assembly, like, stop it. Let's see here. What are we looking at? Do I think we will get Nippon now that we have Cathay? Same thing. Probably not. Well, I wouldn't say probably not. I just think it'll be much later if it happens. Personally, of the two, I actually think Nippon could be cooler. I think Samurai, a Shogun 2 faction with, I don't know exactly what they would have, but I've seen kit bashes where they're riding like snakes. Samurai riding massive snakes into battle. That kind of thing could be even cooler than what we'd see with Cathay. I think Nippon, I personally love Shogun 2. It's one of my favorite Total Wars ever. I would love to see something like that, but I don't know what they would have. There's even less lore for Nippon than there is for Cathay. Cathay actually has the beginnings of an army list in Tamarkan Throne of Chaos, with jade statues, with onyx constructs that are like crowmen, I believe they're called. There's the dragon-blooded Shugengan wizards, there's the Dragon Emperor, there's the Monkey King. We'll talk a lot about that in the Cathay video coming up, to kind of rehash some of those ideas and talk about the map, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said on that front too. A lot of cool stuff there. Modders will probably add it if CA can't. Yeah, that's one thing I'm curious about. Will Warhammer 3 open up modding even more? Warhammer 2, we've seen some awesome headway. Compare that to Warhammer 1, the difference is night and day. Warhammer 2 has had some amazing mods, particularly in the last year or so. Things have opened up tremendously. What people are able to do has opened up tremendously. I'm curious if Creative Assembly will help enforce that and support that even more. That'd be fantastic if that was a thing, because obviously modding can make a game last for 10, 15 more years past its where it would normally expire. So that's very exciting in and of itself. I did talk about End, yeah. Sorry, mate, I don't think End is coming anytime soon. My apologies. Do you think there will be a Siege rework on Game 3? Yes. We talked about that earlier, but I think so. I think there's no way to get around it. Sieges in Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 are not fun. Most people are in agreement on that. There are a lot of bugs with them, a lot of problems with the map design, and it needs to be addressed. It's just that simple. $5 from Howard. For the Warhammer 3 big map, do you think they'll expand Lustria and the Southlands as well? Just make the oceans bigger, now that the turn times are fixed? Yes. I don't know if we'll get all of Lustria and all of the areas you're talking about, but I think with the turn times, which were, I mean, they were such a boon, man. Like, it completely changed the game. I'm not kidding you. I never played Mortal Empires until they made that change. I won't say never, but I avoided it like the plague because I would be spending, even at turn 50, a minute and a half, 2 minutes in between turns. That's not a fun campaign experience. That's awful. Yeah, I stopped playing Mortal Empires for a long time because of that, and it just wasn't entertaining at all. So with that change, I think that they'll be able to add a lot more regions and flesh out the Warhammer world even more, which is very exciting from that perspective. I think it's a really good thing. What do I think about Army Painter and Avatar Conquest? Well, that might be another video in and of itself. It's been a long time since I talked about Avatar Conquest, but short answer, anyone who is heavily invested or even not heavily invested in multiplayer in this series wants some form of Avatar Conquest and Army Painter to return. It was one of the best things about Shogun 2. It was easier for them to do in that game simply because there's only one faction in it. But yeah, I mean, Army Painter would be incredible to make it just like the tabletop. I want to see a Khorne army in all pink. I want to see an Empire faction in black and gold. I want to make them how I want to make them. Now, there should be options. I should be able to click one button and say, hey, I want legit faction colors that are true to the lore. But if I don't want to opt into that, I should be able to make my army whatever I want. Now, again, that option is important because in a replay, I don't necessarily want to see my opponent rocking a garish, bright red and green Empire faction or something like that. Like, that might look ugly. I want to have the option to say, okay, no, go back to normal. But having an Army Painter, huge deal. Avatar Conquest for Shogun 2 was amazing. I want it. Bad. Really bad. There were elements of Avatar Conquest that sucked. It was definitely imbalanced. You definitely had an advantage the more you played, which isn't always a good thing for newer players. But there are lots of things that could be tweaked. They know a lot more about multiplayer and the competitive side of things now. They're actively investing in the multiplayer side of the product with the Everchosens. I think that there's definitely a possibility they'll want to grow multiplayer more for Warhammer 3. $9 from Muramasa. I wonder if they would treat the Great Bastion in Cathay as its own neutral or natural landmark that cannot be crossed unless specific gates. Kind of similar to the gate passes in 3K. I think the Great Bastion will undoubtedly play a large role in the Warhammer 3 specific map. There's no guarantee that it will play a role in the way you're describing, and that it will be like gate pass battles, that kind of thing. But I mean, if we look at what they did with the Empire and forts, right? Like that was, and that could easily be seen as a blueprint for something like the Great Bastion. I mean, you're forced into a choke point where you have to take a section of a massive Great Wall of China. Only in this case, it's a Great Wall of Cathay, and it's being guarded by dragons and terracotta warriors. Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be really cool. Thank you again for the donation, man. Huggy K's with the 50 PLN. If Cathay means that CCP bought CA, does Kislev mean Poland bought some stocks too? Yeah, that's what I've never understood about those kind of arguments. It's like, Russia, yeah, the Cold War is starting all over again. Like, Russia and Poland allied together to buy off CA and get them in the game. Like, no. They added it because they could make a lot of money doing it, or they hope so. And I think they're probably right. I mean, we've already seen how much hype there is around Cathay. That's just in the Western side of things. We're not even talking about China yet. When China gets a hold on the game, that could be, there's the potential for millions of new converts to the Total War series. That's a big deal. That's why they're doing it. A lot of stuff coming in right now. We got another 9. Who is this from? Osmar Amasa. My god, thank you guys for the generosity. Very much appreciated. Jack-o'-lantern, what is your opinion on CA's possibly having mortal legendary lords for the Monogods and the ability to unlock the named greater demons, similar to what we have seen with legendary heroes so far? Have mortal legendary lords on launch. So that is a possibility. We don't know how they're going to handle that yet. Remember, these are Monogods, which means they could have Warriors of Chaos Lords or Demons of Chaos Lords. So, take a faction like Khorne, for example. Khorne has mortal representatives in the Warriors of Chaos side, and he has demonic representatives on the demonic side. So what we could see for a Khornate faction is Volkia the Bloody on launch instead of Scarbrand, and then, yeah, you unlock characters during the campaign. Now, I don't think we'll get it like you're suggesting right now, Jackal, because there's just a lot more work, right? Like, you're essentially making a legendary lord. When they're advertising 9 at the start, you might as well just make them a legit lord at that point. I don't think they'll be heroes. Scarbrand's not a hero anyway. Volkia and Scarbrand would be separate lords, but in the same faction. But yeah, the question is, do you go demons on launch with lords, or do you go a split, maybe 2 and 2? Maybe for Tzeentch and Nurgle, do a mortal representative, so go Egram von Horseman for Tzeentch and Festus Leech Lord for Nurgle, and then do demons for the other 2. So Scarbrand for Khorne and Nakari for Slaanesh. Or you could do all 4 greater demons for each of the Chaos Gods, or you could do all 4 mortal representatives, and then the demons will be DLC. Honestly, I think maybe the best way to approach it is 2 and 2. Simply because it means that you're touching all your bases, right? And that way, if someone doesn't like demons, they're still getting something they like, and then in DLC, they're still guaranteed to get something they like. Whereas opposed, if you went to a full greater demon for all 4, well, if people don't like demons, then they're not going to be interested in those factions at all. So, hard to know how they'll approach that, but I don't think we'll see them as legendary heroes, if that makes sense. Give me 1 second here. I'm trying to get to as many of these donations as I can. Dark Shiv, you the top tier Warhammer 2 or Warhammer content creator. Love your stuff and can't wait for the next installment content. Question, are there overall campaign or battle changes you are wanting to see other than sieges? Yeah, so I think battle maps themselves are a sore point of Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. I think a lot of them get reused, and I think a lot of them are just not interesting. If you look at Shogun 2, for example, it had some incredibly interesting battlefield maps that were symmetrical, but had a lot of terrain features that changed how you played the game, which I think is really important because it opens up more tactics and strategy. if you ever played Shogun 2 multiplayer, you'll know that there were maps like Sakura Ridge, where there's a gigantic ridge in the center, where you can Vanguard deploy ninjas, or go for a full rush army. Then if you make it to the top of that hill, you'll get a downhill charge first, and it changes how you approach the map. There's a lot of waterfalls, there's a lot of overhanging cliffs where you can put archers on top and fire down from above. Those features are almost entirely lacking from the generic auto-generated maps that we saw in Rome 2, Total War Attila, and in Warhammer 1 and 2. Now, in Warhammer 1 and 2, it is a different system. Some of the maps are manually generated, or all of them, I'm not sure which. But one thing that we've constantly seen is that they are devoid of interesting terrain features that change how you play battles. They don't even look like real areas. All the cool things are off of the map, for the most part. There are a few, like Altdorf Outskirts, or rather the Empire Outskirts map, where it has the big statue of Sigmar in the middle. But for the most part, they are rolling hills, grassy terrain, spruced up trees here and there. Not a whole lot going on. Nothing that changes how you play on the battlefield. That needs to change for Warhammer 3, because it's great if the unit rosters themselves are conducive to variety and lots of ways to approach, but if all the maps are just flat and rolling plains, then your tactics are already limited, the battles aren't as interesting. I want to see more of those cool Warhammer features on the battle map itself that you can utilize, that you can fight around, in, amongst, that kind of stuff. I think that's one of the core tenets of what Warhammer 3 needs to address, because the battle maps right now are just boring. Most of them are just boring. And it tells you a lot when people want to play the flat maps, because the ones that do have terrain features are not well balanced and not well designed from a multiplayer side of things. Some of them are very cool for quest battles and stuff, but those are few and far between. I think that's probably like one of the elements I want them to change more than anything.
Fortune favors the infamous.
Thank God my GERD has not kicked up. Thank God for health aid, kombucha, hashtag not sponsored. It makes me burp. I'm sorry for burping into the mic, but it has seriously helped me suppress these disgusting acid reflux symptoms for a long ass time, and it's been really nice. I mean, it still sucks. I still wake up every day feeling like shit, but it helps relieve that, at least temporarily, which is nice. I actually don't, dude, I might be here for like hours if I literally go in and read every single super chat. Some of you guys who donated have probably already left anyway. But again, thank you so much, man. You guys have been awesome today. Crispy Bacon, welcome, my friend. Indie chat, how are regular Dwarfs going to be a good faction after? Oh, you must have missed the conversation earlier. I broke that. I literally did. I talked about that entire thing. How they differentiate from each other. Yeah, if you go back, maybe I'll do timestamps. That might make it easier. I'm not going to rehash that topic just because everyone who's been here the whole time has already heard what I said about that. But they are different factions. Yeah, if you go back like maybe 35, 40 minutes, literally just broke that down. The massive differences between the two races. Basically, the gist of it is Chaos Dwarfs are more elite. They're really low in number. They have more firepower. They have mobility. They're more versatile. But Dwarfs have more reliable firepower. They can swarm the field with cheap infantry that's actually tanky, as opposed to the slaves of hobgoblins and all that. So they are very different races. I think Dwarfs will be... I mean, it might be a bad matchup for them head-to-head. As we know, Dwarfs have the most good and bad matchups in the game. The ones that they stomp bad, and the ones they get stomped in, they get stomped bad in. But that doesn't mean that they'll do well against Chaos Dwarfs, but Dwarfs have their own set of stuff that makes them good. Is the best way I could put it. When do I think Game 3 will be released? It's a good question. I think... Well, my prediction, after we got kind of like the new timeline with the delays from COVID and all that stuff, the global pandemic. Obviously, my initial suggestions, like many moons ago, years ago, was that this game would come in 2019. So, asking me for when it will actually come out is probably not the best thing, because I've been wrong about it a lot in the past. But I was using the Warhammer 1 to Warhammer 2 timescale, and obviously there was no way to predict that a global pandemic would be on the way. But I think the delays to Warhammer 3 have already been factored in. I think they've already been accounted for, and I think Warhammer 3 will launch by maybe October of this year. It is possible that it started out as like an August thing, maybe like a summer thing, and it got pushed back. It could get pushed back even more, but the fact that they committed to 2021, even with the fact that there's a global pandemic still going on, makes me think it's already factored in and that they are prepared to release at worst in December, which would be great for our ad revenue. But personally, I think a October, November release date makes a lot of sense. It'll definitely be in the in quarter 4 of this year, and hopefully, oh my God, hopefully there will not be a delay into 2022. Not just because of the fact that that would suck, and we've been waiting a long time for this game, but it would also suck from a business perspective, because as you guys know, ad rates in November and December are amazing. It's a great time to make money doing this kind of thing. Well, at least in comparison to the earlier stages in the year, like in January and February, where ad rates plummet and are terrible. So just from a pure business perspective, the ideal time for this to launch would probably be in November, because that's when, right around Thanksgiving, is when ad rates like shoot up into the stratosphere, which is really fun. So I know you didn't really ask that, but some of you guys are probably interested in like the business side of this, so felt I would share anyway. Silence is virtue, NOK 50. One gripe I have with CA is that they don't plan ahead with voice lines. Here's hoping CA adds voice lines for Game 1 races, referring to Game 3 races. Yeah, if you're talking about not diplomacy, but like in battle stuff, where they go, Odious, Druki, yeah, like I don't think any of those exist for like Dark Elves and Empire, or Lizardmen and, oh, I guess High Elves and Dwarfs. Well, that one might exist actually, but there are a lot of Game 1 and Game 2 voice lines that, yeah, don't exist. But they do exist between multiple Game 2 races, so I agree. That's a lot of work. I wouldn't necessarily go into this expecting that to happen. I would say it's a minor thing, but if it's a minor thing they can flesh out more, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I agree. I definitely agree on that front. Let's do something here. Let's go into the super chats if we can find them, and read off some of these questions and donations that I might have missed from earlier in the stream. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for the support today. We're at 130,000 views in 10 goddamn hours on the Total War Warhammer 3 cinematic trailer, Cathay Playable Races, Legendary Lords. So that's awesome. I don't know if that's a record on my channel in 10 hours, but it's gotta be pretty close. At the moment, knock on wood, I'm hoping that'll continue to rise and we might be pushing like a 300,000 view video or something, which would be dope. Right now, I think 1 million is the highest I've ever gotten, but after that, it drops off a cliff. 600,000 is the next one after that. The million was best units for every race in the game. And that was a unique thing. I'm not sure we'll ever sniff 1 million views again, but it'd be great if we could on that video. It's off to a fantastic start, that is for sure. I need to figure out how to access super chats here. It might be in transaction row. Give me a second here. This might take me a moment or two to find the super chats, because they should be coming in live. How to find super chats on YouTube. Shared your analysis on the Radius Discord. Which element of the analysis? Just the video that I made? Yeah, I mean, obviously the hype for this game has been tremendous for so long now. It's kind of built up and built up and built up. I'm glad it continued to actually translate into views. God damn it. How do you find this? One thing that I hate about YouTube's back end is that it's really difficult to find things. Like, it's really, for a platform that has as much money flowing through it and as many content creators on it as they do, there's a lot of jank that gets pretty annoying to deal with. Would it be in monetization? Ah, this might be it. Yeah, I found them. I found him. My god, guys, we have so many super chats for today. So many. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's read off some more of these. So Muramasa, we've covered his. DL Sword, I remember doing his. Jimmy Lav C. How could one not be hyped about Monkey King? Yeah, we read that one. Lucas Hurdy, what about the Chaos Dwarfs though? Brumpet with the 5. Got Warhammer 3, 27% on game 2. They're using your affiliate, so I thought I would give you something here. Love the channel, got me into Warhammer. Thank you very much, my friend, much appreciated. Facer with the SEK 200. Cat Girls Ooh Woo. Let's go. Don't know if we'll be getting those in Warhammer 2. The Tiger Men of End could be a thing, like I said, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. But Cat Girls in Darktide, maybe. I know Cat Girls have been really famous in 40k. Maybe we'll get a Cat Girl playable character in Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. That would be pretty dope. Did Lord Zoltron's Changer of Ways? I bet the survey Games Workshop did a year ago is the reason why we have Cathay. Yeah, I mean, one of the cool things about doing this, right? Like the fact that people like me have a platform is we can reach to Creative Assembly and we can reach to Games Workshop and say, this is what we want. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of role my Cathay video from a year ago played in it, but that has like 170,000 views. I can guarantee you that there were CA employees and that there were Games Workshop employees that watched that video. Maybe some element of that could have been a kernel that helped spark stuff. That would be really, really cool. The fact that people have discussed it for so long on Reddit and on the forums, they pay attention to all that stuff. I definitely think that this was a community movement that made it happen. And I think that if people hadn't been talking about it in the way they had for so long, that there's no way we would have ever gotten it. So I think that's really cool that we can come together and ask for that kind of stuff and make it a reality. I think that's really awesome. Atticus X with the $2. Beastman Norska DLC seems like it will be overshadowed. I don't know if it'll be against Norska. Right now, I'm really hoping it will be a Game 1 versus Game 1 Lord Pack. I think most of us agree Beastmen are next, and that is a clarification I need to make. A lot of you guys might not realize there's the race pack, and I'm pretty sure that is entirely separate. The pre-order bonus, I'm pretty sure, is entirely separate from the DLC that Creative Assembly has already confirmed. I don't know that for sure, but I feel fairly confident that Beastmen are getting their rework and DLC before we make it to Warhammer 3. As I said, it makes no sense to wait for Warhammer 3. They're gonna have their hands full. They can't do the Beastmen once Warhammer 3 comes out. So, just like the Wood Elves got theirs in December, I expect Beastmen maybe in April or May. And who they'll be up against, I have no idea. I hope it's a Game 1 race, but it could be Game 2, given what the devs have said. Yeah, I think Beastmen will be coming. I don't know if it'll be against Norska. I don't know when Norska will get more stuff, honestly. Maybe in Warhammer 3, considering they are technically a Chaos faction. They could get someone like the head of the Scaling tribe, not Scaling, the High Jarl. Wow. I'm completely blanking. Garmir and Gormir are his twin axes. I'm completely blanking. He's a Khorne Norskin lord. I'm gonna remember it in like 2 seconds, but I can't think of it for some reason. My throat's gonna be dead here very, very soon. We're probably gonna call a stream very soon, but let's read out the names of everyone who donated and then maybe call it a day. So we got Facher with the 200. Thank you so much. Quentin, Silence is Virtue, Crispy Bacon, Huggy K's, Jack-o'-lantern, Muramasa, Darkshiv, Peachy O's. I want to have Katarina's babies. I feel you, my dude. Or girl. Whichever you are, I feel you. Yeah, she's looking quite spicy in the trailer. Helix, Howard Requiem with the 5. The BMW Force, Vinius Varen, Jolin Helix, Brandon Bentley, Lauren Deron Bolton, E.B. Zahando, Hurricane Irma, Andrew King, Proctor, Richard Silos, Proctor again, Panda Muramasa a bunch of times. Thank you, man. Flying Potato and Great Betrayer, Nacho Guy V, West. Wow, so many. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. Game plan for the week. Cathay video probably tomorrow, where we talk about the campaign map more in depth, where we talk about what the unit roster might look like. what their legendary lords might look like. End times video after that, discussing that one weird ass line that Creative Assembly, like, I don't know what they're thinking when they say it. It doesn't make sense to me. We'll discuss that, and we'll discuss Monogods more in depth. We'll, at some point, get back to our regular scheduled Warhammer 2 multiplayer content, but I think Warhammer 3 hype train is in, well, it's pulled into station and it's leaving real quick, so get on it or be left behind, essentially. Yeah, a lot of stuff to talk about. If you guys have any particular ideas for videos that you want me to discuss, please let me know in comment section or on stream, whatever. We will be doing more streams, and again, if you would like to pre-order through me, Nexus affiliate link should be available tomorrow. I will make an announcement, and you can purchase through there, get the pre-order, and, well, make me some money on the side, because I like money. You guys are going to be buying it anyway, so I like that. If you guys want to support, awesome. If you don't, it's not a big deal. I'm having fun with this regardless. I could be making no money right now, and I would still be having fun. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the generosity. Thank you so much for joining me, and let's get hyped for Warhammer 3, man. Gonna be a really fun year, and hopefully, with any luck, global pandemic will be gone, the vaccines will be out, and we will be out and about and enjoying life once again after a long quarantine. Thank you. I will see you all in the next video. Andy Pride, signing out for now.